Chapter 782. Yuan Weiqing suddenly turned to look at LV Hushan and said loudly, "Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, let me attack LV Hushan." LV Hushan was shocked. "Don't even think about it." Yuan Weiqing cupped his hands toward Zhang Chunrin and said with shame, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, at the beginning you told me to attack LV Hushan, but I disobeyed your order. Now, I have decided to follow your order. Vice Hall Master Zhang, can you give me a chance?" Zhang Chunrin turned to look at LV Hushan and asked with a smile, "LV Hushan, did you hear Yuan Weiqing's words? Do you agree?" LV Hushan sneered, "Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, Yuan Weiqing took the initiative to abandon the agreement and asked me to attack him. This is what he said. Why should I abandon it?" Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused and continued, "Yuan Weiqing, are you ready? I'm going to start." Yuan Weiqing was scared and took a step back, saying loudly, "Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, let me do it, please." Zhang Chunrin waved his hand and stopped LV Hushan. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said in a deep voice, "Yuan Weiqing, do you want to kill Hall Leader Shui or be killed by LV Hushan? It's your choice." Looking at LV Hushan, who was walking toward him step by step, Yuan Weiqing suddenly gritted his teeth. "Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, I'll kill Hall Leader Shui." Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunrin sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, do you really agree?" Yuan Weiqing wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and sighed, "Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, I hope that after I kill Hall Leader Shui, you can keep your promise and help me stand up again." Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunrin frowned. "Yuan Weiqing, did I say that? Why don't I remember?" Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and hurriedly said, "Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, you said it yourself. How can you forget it?" Zhang Chunrin sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, when I said those words, I said them to my partner. But how can a runaway like you be qualified to be my partner?" Zhang Chunrin paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing's reply and continued to speak. "Yuan Weiqing, you only have two options now. Either you kill Hall Master Shui, or you wait here for LV Hushan to kill you. Do you understand?" Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. "Then I choose to leave." "Impossible." Zhang Chunrin sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, I gave you a chance just now, but you didn't want it. Now you have no chance. You only have two choices." Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing felt a chill in his heart. He hurriedly said, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, I quit. I really quit. As long as you let me go, I will immediately leave this place. I will not hinder you." Zhang Chunrin shook his head and said coldly, "Yuan Weiqing, I gave you too many chances, but you didn't want them all. Now, I have no patience. Hurry up and choose one of these two choices." Yuan Weiqing was so scared that his face turned pale. He suddenly realized that even if he killed Hall Master Shui now, he wouldn't get any benefits. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, no. Let me go. I promise this will be the last time." Zhang Chunrin turned his head and looked at LV Hushan. He sneered, "LV Hushan, since Yuan Weiqing doesn't dare to do it, hurry up and do it." Hearing Zhang Chunrin's order, LV Hushan immediately responded. He turned his head and looked at Yuan Weiqing with a cold smile on his face. "LV Hushan, don't come over." Zhang Chunrin waved his hand. "Yuan Weiqing, I'll give you one last chance. Will you kill Hall Master Shui?" Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, what about our starting conditions?" Zhang Chunrin waved his hand and sneered, "No, nothing. If you kill Hall Master Shui now, you can at least save yourself. But if you don't do it, Hall Master Shui will still be killed, and you will also be killed by LV Hushan. Do you understand?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he took a few steps back. He said in a trembling voice, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't tell me you won't even give me a chance?" Zhang Chunrin sneered and shook his head. "Yuan Weiqing, I've given you so many chances, but you didn't take them. Don't blame me." Zhang Chunrin turned his head and looked at LV Hushan. He shouted, "LV Hushan, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and do it." LV Hushan immediately responded and was about to do it. Yuan Weiqing was so scared that his forehead was covered with cold sweat. He waved his hand again and again. If I saw Master Zhang, I'll do it. I'll do it, okay? Please don't do it. Zhang Chunren waved his hand and stopped LV Hushan. He turned his head and looked at Yuan Weiqing. He sneered and said, Yuan Weiqing, since you want to do it, then hurry up and do it. I didn't stop you. Yuan Weiqing felt a chill in his heart. At this moment, he understood that it was no longer possible for him to gain any benefits from this. Now, if he were to kill Hall Master Shui, he would only be able to protect himself. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing secretly regretted. Why did he come back? Just now, he was asked to leave, so he should leave quickly. How could he be involved in this kind of thing? However, it was useless to regret. Yuan Weiqing frowned and thought quickly in his heart. How to solve this problem? Zhang Chunren saw that Yuan Weiqing was unwilling to do it. He urged, Yuan Weiqing, since you want to do it, hurry up and do it. What are you waiting for? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. His eyes could not help but look around. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I think that Hall Master Shui's matter is a small matter. It's more important to solve Yi Tianhua's matter first. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry about this. Just do it and get rid of Hall Master Shui. This is none of your business. Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, Yi Tianhua's martial arts are strong. Although I injured him just now, it has been delayed for so long. If his martial arts recover a little, wouldn't that be bad? Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren's reply and continued to speak. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, although your martial arts are strong, compared to Yi Tianhua, I'm afraid that you are still a far cry. If he recovers from his injury, I'm afraid that you won't be his opponent. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren's gaze froze. He turned to look at Yi Tianhua and thought to himself that he had been careless. Although he had injured Yi Tianhua, if he really recovered from his injury, he was afraid that he would not be his opponent. Yi Tianhua's martial arts were strong. Even if he was seriously injured, he would definitely recover faster than others. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, since you reminded me, fine. I'll give you another chance. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, go and cripple Yi Tianhua now. Take revenge for what he did to you just now. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He hurriedly said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang's martial arts are strong. If you let me go, I'm afraid that I won't be his opponent. Trash. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunren scolded angrily. Yuan Weiqing, now that Yi Tianhua is seriously injured, what are you afraid of? Hurry up and go take a look. Hearing Zhang Chunren's determined tone, Yuan Weiqing sighed in his heart. He knew that if he did not go, he was afraid that Zhang Chunren would let LV Hushan deal with him again. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing could only grit his teeth and slowly walk towards Yi Tianhua. Just as Yuan Weiqing was about to reach Yi Tianhua's side, he suddenly heard a sneer. Yi Tianhua actually slowly sat up from the ground. Yuan Weiqing, do you want to fight me? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and subconsciously turned to run. Seeing that Yi Tianhua actually sat up, Zhang Chunren was shocked. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, don't be afraid. He's already seriously injured. It's impossible for him to recover so quickly. Hurry up and go, do you understand? At this moment, Yuan Weiqing had already run to Zhang Chunren's side. After hearing these words, his face immediately changed, and he said in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I can't. Since Yi Tianhua can sit up, it means that his martial arts have already recovered. With my martial arts, I'm afraid I'll be killed before I even get close. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yuan Weiqing, are you afraid? Hearing Zhang Chunren's greeting, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand and said in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I'm not afraid. But now that I've lost my martial arts, I'm definitely not Yi Tianhua's opponent. Zhang Chunren frowned. Yuan Weiqing, Yi Tianhua is already seriously injured. What are you afraid of? Hurry up and go take a look. Don't forget, this is my test for you. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth. Okay, then I'll go take a look. After saying this, Yuan Weiqing stepped forward and walked towards Yi Tianhua again. Just as he was about to reach Yi Tianhua sneered again and asked loudly, Yuan Weiqing, do you really dare to come over? After saying this, Yi Tianhua looked around and picked up the sword that had fallen to the side. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and sighed. Yuan Weiqing, come over. I'll give you a quick death. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing suddenly trembled in fear and stopped in his tracks. He turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, look. Although Yi Tianhua looked fine, Zhang Chunren was actually not afraid. This was because even if Yi Tianhua had recovered from some of his injuries, he would not be afraid. Yuan Weiqing, what are you waiting for? He's trying to scare you. Hurry up and go over. After seeing this scene, LV Hushan knew that if Yuan Weiqing did not go over, he would probably be forced to go. Thinking of this, he hurriedly shouted, Yuan Weiqing, don't be afraid. Even if Yi Tianhua's martial arts are strong, he won't be able to recover much of his strength in such a short time. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. LV Hushan, since you said that I haven't recovered from my injuries, why don't you come over and let Yuan Weiqing come over? Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but he did not wait for LV Hushan to reply. He laughed coldly and continued to speak without waiting for LV Hushan's reply. LV Hushan, I understand. You don't dare to come over, so you let Yuan Weiqing come over, right? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed, and he hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, don't listen to him. He's just trying to scare you. If he recovered his martial arts, he would have gotten up and killed you long ago. Why would he talk to you over there? After hearing LV Hushan's explanation, Yuan Weiqing was relieved. Just as he was about to walk forward again, he heard Yi Tianhua speak again. LV Hushan, I know that you want Yuan Weiqing to exhaust my recovered martial arts. After I use the last of my martial arts to kill Yuan Weiqing, you'll come and take advantage of it, right? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but stop again. He turned to look at LV Hushan and asked in a trembling voice, LV Hushan, are you really? Before Yuan Weiqing could finish his words, LV Hushan waved his hand and interrupted him. Yuan Weiqing, don't listen to him. His martial arts hasn't recovered. Otherwise, why would he say that? LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, Yi Tianhua is obviously trying to stall for time. Can't you see it? Yuan Weiqing, hurry up and go over. If you delay for too long, and Yi Tianhua really recovers his martial arts, then you'll be in trouble. As soon as LV Hushan finished speaking, Yi Tianhua sneered, LV Hushan, do you really think that you could defeat me with your martial arts? After saying this, Yi Tianhua slowly stood up from the ground and looked at Yuan Weiqing coldly. Yuan Weiqing, come over. I'll wait for you here. Seeing that Yi Tianhua actually stood up, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he immediately retreated. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, this is bad. Yi Tianhua's martial arts has really recovered. What should I do? Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yuan Weiqing, who had been pushed to his side, and sighed. Yuan Weiqing, ever since you were injured, I've wanted to help you stand up again. However, everything you've done has really disappointed me. Just now, when you were fighting with Yi Tianhua, you ran faster than anyone else. Now, when you saw Yi Tianhua stand up, you ran away in fear. Yuan Weiqing, think about it. Who are you doing this to? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, Deputy Hall Master Zhang is right. Although Deputy Hall Master Zhang wants to help you, you're too disappointing. As soon as you see danger ahead, you run away. You have no sense of responsibility at all. With you like this, who would want to help you? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, let's hurry up and go over. Chapter 783. LV Hushan continued. Yuan Weiqing, you'd better listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang and go take a look. If you disappoint Vice Hall Master Zhang again, no one will be able to save you. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was furious. LV Hushan, what are you talking about? I've already lost my martial arts. What if Yi Tianhua attacks me? LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. Yi Tianhua may have stood up, but he hasn't recovered his martial arts. You just have to be brave and go over. There won't be a problem. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and turned his head to look at Yi Tianhua, only to see Yi Tianhua looking at him with a cold smile. He was shocked and couldn't help but take a few steps back before speaking in a trembling voice. LV Hushan, you lied to me. Yi Tianhua has already recovered. How can you say that he hasn't? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren sneered and picked up a stone from the ground. With a light flick of his finger, the stone flew out like lightning and hit Yi Tianhua. Seeing the stone slide off Yi Tianhua's body, Yuan Weiqing was overjoyed. Yi Tianhua really hasn't recovered. That's great, that's great. If Yi Tianhua had recovered his martial arts, Zhang Chunren's stone wouldn't have hit him. Yi Tianhua's martial arts were as high as a wall. Even if he didn't block it, he could have easily shaken the small stone away with his internal energy. However, the stone didn't shake off the stone and instead landed on his body. This meant that Yi Tianhua's martial arts hadn't recovered. Understanding this, Yuan Weiqing was emboldened. He turned to LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, since Vice Hall Master Zhang asked me to go over, I'll go take a look. Ha! As Yuan Weiqing spoke, he swaggered towards Yi Tianhua. Before Yuan Weiqing got close, he saw Yi Tianhua slowly raise the sword in his hand and look at him with a cold smile. Seeing Yi Tianhua so calm, Yuan Weiqing was taken aback. He immediately stopped and looked at Yi Tianhua. He asked tentatively, Yi Tianhua, have you recovered your martial arts? Yi Tianhua shook his head. No. Hearing Yi Tianhua's answer, Yuan Weiqing was overjoyed. Just as he was about to step forward again, he suddenly had a thought. If Yi Tianhua's martial arts had not recovered, then how could he stand up? Since he stood up, didn't that mean that even if his martial arts had not fully recovered, he could at least wield the long sword in his hand? Yi Tianhua's swordsmanship was superb. Even if he did not have any internal energy, it would not take much effort to deal with him. Furthermore, he did not have much martial arts left. If he rushed forward, he might really be killed by Yi Tianhua. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing did not dare to leave. He asked again, Yi Tianhua, have you really not recovered your martial arts? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Yuan Weiqing, why do you have to do this? Since you want to come, why ask? If you don't want to come over, you can go back. I'm not stopping you. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was even more hesitant. If Yi Tianhua dared to say it so casually, then he must have the ability to do so. Yuan Weiqing stood there awkwardly. He wanted to walk forward, but he did not dare to. He wanted to retreat, but he did not have the face to do so. For a moment, he stood there in a daze, not daring to speak or move. Seeing that Yuan Weiqing was neither moving forward nor retreating, LV Hushan could not help but urge, Yuan Weiqing, what do you want? Hurry up and go. Can't you see that Vice Hall Master Zhang is waiting anxiously? Before Yuan Weiqing could reply, Yi Tianhua, who was standing opposite of LV Hushan, suddenly said, Yuan Weiqing, why do you have to do this? Even if my martial arts have recovered, you are definitely not my match. Rather than this, why don't you hurry up and go back? Yuan Weiqing, we have no enmity between us. I don't understand why you're doing this. At this point, Yi Tianhua turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed. Zhang Chunren, I know that your son was killed and you are upset. However, I have already promised you that I will find out the reason for this matter. Why do you have to force me? Hearing Yi Tianhua's question, Zhang Chunren nodded. Yi Tianhua, I have already said that as long as you agree to my conditions, our matter will naturally be over. However, you are unwilling to agree. We can only be heavy-handed. Yi Tianhua turned his head to look at Xue Zhijing in the distance and frowned. Zhang Chunren, Home Master Shui is seriously injured. Don't you want to go over and take a look? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, don't worry about other people's matters. You should worry about your own matters first. Do you know that Yuan Weiqing wants to go over and kill you? Tianhua turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and smiled faintly. I believe that Yuan Weiqing won't do that, right? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. Then he sneered. Tianhua, you don't have to say anything nice. To tell you the truth, if you don't agree to our conditions, I'll really kill you today. Tianhua nodded and turned to look at Zhang Chunren. He smiled and said, Zhang Chunren, we don't have much enmity between us, and you should know very well how harsh your conditions are. If it's possible, why don't we discuss it calmly and find a way to solve it? At this point, Tianhua paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Zhang Chunren to reply and continue to speak. Zhang Chunren, you should stop now. Don't wait until the situation is irreversible. Then, it will be too late. When that time comes, if it causes a fight between our two factions, it will not benefit either of us. Don't you understand? Zhang Chunren sighed. Tianhua, I understand. However, you are too much of a bully and refuse to agree to my conditions. That is why there is a glutton today. If you had agreed to my conditions, this would not have happened. Tianhua gritted his teeth. Zhang Chunren, if it were you, would you have agreed to those conditions? Hearing Tianhua's question, Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, if I did such a thing, I would definitely agree. Although I have done something wrong, I have to find a way to make up for it. But you just want to let this matter go and do not want to compensate me. How can I agree? Tianhua, no matter what, I must make you agree to my conditions today. Hearing this, Tianhua frowned. Zhang Chunren, the conditions you asked me to agree to just now are too harsh. I can't agree to you. However, if you let us go now, we can discuss and try to satisfy you. What do you think? Hearing Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded and stretched out a finger as he slowly said, Tianhua, 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. If you agree, I'll let you go immediately. What do you think? 10 million gold coins, 5 years of free information? Tianhua looked at Zhang Chunren in shock. Zhang Chunren, are you crazy? Do you know how much 10 million gold coins is? Do you know how much lost 5 years of free information will bring to our South County Shadow Alliance? Seeing Tianhua's shocked expression, Zhang Chunren nodded in satisfaction. Tianhua, of course I know. Is this my condition? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Tianhua to answer him and continued speaking. Tianhua, don't worry. As long as you agree to these two conditions, I will let you go immediately. I will not go back on my words. Ha! Tianhua turned around and looked at Zhang Chunren. Zhang Chunren, you must be kidding. Don't you know how much 10 million gold coins are? Even your Tanlei sect in the South Prefecture might not have so many gold coins. Now you want me to take out 10 million gold coins alone? Is it possible? Zhang Chunren nodded. Hearing Tianhua's answer, Zhang Chunren shook his head and sneered. Tianhua, let me tell you, you don't have the conditions to bargain with me now. I just want 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. If you want to go back, then use these two conditions in exchange. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Tianhua gritted his teeth and looked at Zhang Chunren. Zhang Chunren, are you really not afraid of causing a fight between the two gangs? Zhang Chunren shook his head and sneered. Tianhua, a fight between two gangs? You really know how to joke. Why do I not understand why it would cause a fight between two gangs? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Tianhua to answer him. He sneered and continued speaking. Tianhua, let me tell you the truth. Even if I kill you now, nothing will happen. Do you think you can cause a fight between the two gangs? Are you dreaming? If you are killed by me here, who will know? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua gritted his teeth and sneered. Zhang Chunren, don't be too proud. If we don't go back here, the people of the South County Shadow Alliance will know. At that time, they will definitely find your South County Secret Thunder Sect and take revenge for us. Zhang Chunren, do you think they will do nothing? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Tianhua, if they know that we did it, they will take revenge on us. However, if I don't admit it, what can they do to me? If they say that I did it, what evidence do they have? If there is no evidence, then I didn't do it. Do you understand? Since I didn't do it, why would the people of the South County Shadow Alliance take revenge on me? Tianhua, don't you think so? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly clapped his hands and laughed. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you're right. They don't have evidence, so how dare they say that we did it? Even if others know about this, they will probably think that the South County Shadow Alliance did something wrong. Haha, after hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Tianhua, I advise you to listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang's words and agree to our conditions. Then you may still have a chance to live. Otherwise, you will be in trouble today. Tianhua looked at the three people in front of him who were laughing wildly. He was shocked. His martial arts had not recovered, and he could only barely stand up. If Yuan Weiqing really rushed over recklessly, he might be able to knock him down. Tianhua gritted his teeth. Zhang Chunren, if you want to earn gold coins, there are many ways. Why do you have to do this to me? Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, because you killed my son. Otherwise, why would I have a reason to do this to you? You? Tianhua pointed at Zhang Chunren and said loudly, Zhang Chunren, what do you mean by this? Could it be that your real purpose is to make me agree to your conditions? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Tianhua, since you've harmed my son, you'll have to pay a heavy price. I'm already being generous by asking for 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. If you're still not satisfied, I can add on 20 million gold coins and 10 years of free information. Do you agree? Tianhua widened his eyes and stared at Zhang Chunren. After a while, he shouted, Zhang Chunren, our two gangs have never interfered with each other. Why are you targeting us? Zhang Chunren sighed. Of course it's because you are unlucky. Is there any other reason? Haha. Hearing Zhang Chunren's laughter, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly laughed. Tianhua, hurry up and agree to our Deputy Hall Master Zhang's conditions. Don't waste any more time, understand? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Tianhua suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, do you think that I could be manipulated by you just because I am injured? Tianhua paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Yuan Weiqing to reply. He scoffed and continued without waiting for Yuan Weiqing's reply. Yuan Weiqing, let me tell you, you are dreaming. If you really dare to attack, then we will all die together. No one will be able to escape. Seeing Tianhua's eyes gradually turning red, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he took a step back and said hurriedly, Tianhua, why do you have to do this? Just agree to our Deputy Hall Master Zhang's conditions, and this matter will be over. Why take the risk? LV Hushan also hurriedly said, That's right, Tianhua. Although 10 million gold coins is a bit much, I believe that with your status, you should be able to raise it. Why do you have to hurt yourself for 10 million gold coins? Hearing their words, Zhang Chunren nodded. Tianhua, you are right. Although 10 million gold coins is a lot, I think it is not enough compared to your people. Tianhua, as long as you agree to these two conditions of mine, don't worry, I will definitely let you go. What do you think? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua shook his head and sighed as he slowly said, Zhang Chunren, 10 million gold coins, that's easy for you to say, but where am I going to find the money for you? That's impossible. Chapter 784. Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunren, I can't afford 10 million gold coins? Zhang Chunren sneered. Tianhua, if you can't afford it, don't blame me for being impolite. LV Hushan also hurriedly said loudly, Tianhua, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Vice Hall Master Zhang will discuss it with you. If you agree, we won't hurt each other. But if you don't agree, Tianhua sneered. LV Hushan, if I don't agree, what can you do to me? Hearing Tianhua's words, LV Hushan was stunned and couldn't say anything for a moment. Although Yi Tianhua was injured. Even in this state, he was definitely not someone he could deal with. Zhang Chunren didn't panic and sneered. Yi Tianhua, don't talk so much nonsense. I just want to ask you, do you agree to my conditions? Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly. Zhang Chunren, this matter hasn't been clarified yet. How can I agree to your conditions? Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer him. Zhang Chunren, I can agree. After I go back and investigate, if it's really our South County Shadow Alliance's fault, then I promise you, although I can't promise you 5 years of free information, I can definitely do it for 5 million gold coins. 5 million gold coins? Hearing Yi Tianhua's number, Zhang Chunren sneered. Yi Tianhua, my condition is 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. Now you want to give me 5 million gold coins, and you want to get away with it? Do you think that's possible? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua frowned. Zhang Chunren, are you still not satisfied with 5 million gold coins? Zhang Chunren shook his head. I'm not satisfied. My condition is 10 million gold coins, but you only give me 5 million gold coins. Do you think I'll be satisfied? Yi Tianhua let out a sigh. Zhang Chunren, 5 million gold coins is already a lot. To tell you the truth, after all these years of savings, I only have 500,000 gold coins. I've already tried my best to promise you 5 million gold coins. If you're still not satisfied, then I have nothing else to say. Zhang Chunren nodded, turned to look at Yuan Weiqing, and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, what are you waiting for? Hurry up. Yuan Weiqing was shocked when he heard Zhang Chunren's words. He waved his hand and said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I can't do that. Yi Tianhua has recovered his martial arts. If I go there, I won't be a match for him. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, didn't you hear Vice Hall Leader Zhang's words? Yi Tianhua has not recovered his martial arts and is just trying to scare you. Don't hesitate. Hurry up and go there. Yi Tianhua won't do anything to you. After saying this, LV Hushan saw that Yuan Weiqing still did not dare to move. So he continued, Yuan Weiqing, what are you afraid of? Vice Hall Master Zhang and I are here. If Yi Tianhua dares to attack you, we won't stand by and do nothing. Don't worry, you won't be in danger. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing shook his head and sighed. LV Hushan, even if you want to save me, if Yi Tianhua really wants to attack me, I'm afraid it will be too late. LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, this is Vice Hall Master Zhang's final test for you. If you don't agree, I'm afraid you won't have another chance. Yuan Weiqing, if you lose this chance, I don't need to tell you what will happen to you. You should know very well, right? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing's whole body suddenly trembled. He suddenly remembered what he had just said and was shocked. If he did not listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang, he would not have another chance. In the past, Vice Hall Master Zhang would let him go, but looking at the situation just now, he was afraid that he would let LV Hushan kill him. Even if he wanted to leave, he would not have a chance. Most importantly, even if he left, where could he go? There was still a bandit leader, Boss Liu, waiting for him. Once he knew about his situation, he would definitely not let him go. Moreover, he had made it very clear that even if he hid, he would not be able to escape from the bandit leader, Boss Liu. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing raised his head and looked at Yi Tianhua, only to see Yi Tianhua smiling at him. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and said loudly, Yi Tianhua, you should hurry up and agree to Vice Hall Master Zhang's words. If you annoy us, you will definitely not have a good ending. Yi Tianhua frowned. Yuan Weiqing, why are you doing this? You only have one arm now. It can be said that you do not have any martial arts left. If you want to come over, even if I only have 10% of my martial arts left, I can easily kill you. Why are you looking for trouble? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing could not help but sigh in his heart. Although he admitted that what Yi Tianhua said was true, there was no way out now. Yuan Weiqing let out a sigh. Yi Tianhua, you're persuading me, and I also want to persuade you. As long as you agree to Deputy Head Zhang's condition, Everyone will be fine. Why do you keep pestering him? Am I right? Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I already tried my best to agree to your conditions, but how can I agree to 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information? Yuan Weiqing laughed bitterly. Tianhua, if you agree, although it will be difficult, you will at least be able to leave safely. However, if you don't agree, I'm afraid that even if you want to leave, you won't be able to. Hearing this, Tianhua suddenly laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, you think that because I'm injured, I can't leave even if I want to, right? Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment. Then he said, Tianhua, I know that your martial arts are strong, but I also know that your injuries are very serious. If you want to leave in this state, how can it be so easy? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Tianhua to reply and continued. Besides, even if you leave, don't tell me that you don't want your brothers. I can tell you clearly that if you dare to leave, your brothers won't have a good ending. Do you believe me? Hearing this, Tianhua gritted his teeth and said coldly, Yuan Weiqing, if it wasn't for them, why would I be talking nonsense with you here? Yuan Weiqing nodded. Tianhua, since you understand this, I think you'd better agree quickly. Otherwise, even if you want to leave, you won't be able to take them away, right? Tianhua gritted his teeth. 5 million gold coins. If you agree to this price, then I'll agree. As for the 10 million gold coins you mentioned, I definitely can't do it. Speaking of this, Tianhua paused and sighed before continuing. Even with the South County Shadow Alliance, I'm afraid I can't do it. Yuan Weiqing, do you understand? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. Tianhua, even your Shadow Alliance doesn't have so many gold coins. You can borrow. I believe that with your status, you can definitely borrow so many gold coins. Won't this matter be solved? Borrow? Tianhua suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, you want me to borrow 10 million gold coins? Then let me ask you, how should I reply? Do I have to return these gold coins for the rest of my life? Yuan Weiqing nodded and said with a bitter smile, although it won't be easy for you in the future, after all, you can take your brothers back, right? Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, I can't do it. Even if I want to borrow so many gold coins, I might not be able to. Why don't you change the condition? Yuan Weiqing sighed. Tianhua, this is our Vice Hall Master Zhang's condition. I think that if you don't agree, his condition will increase. At that time, you won't be able to afford it. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Tianhua turned to look at Zhang Chunrin and gritted his teeth. Zhang Chunrin, aren't you afraid of causing a fight between our two gangs? Zhang Chunrin shook his head. What's there to be afraid of? As long as you agree to my condition, I naturally have a way to not be afraid. Tianhua clenched his teeth. If I agree to your condition and go back on my word after you let us go, what can you do to me? Go back on your word? Zhang Chunrin turned to look at Tianhua and sneered. Tianhua, even if you agree to my condition, I will leave behind enough evidence to let you go. How can I give you a chance to go back on your word? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Tianhua's heart suddenly moved. He knew that today's matter could not be settled peacefully. Thinking of this, Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunrin, you win. I agree to your condition. Can you let us go? Zhang Chunrin nodded and turned to look at Lu Hushan. Lu Hushan, go capture those people and use them as hostages. After instructing Lu Hushan, Zhang Chunrin turned to look at Tianhua and said with a smile, Tianhua, your martial arts are so high. If I let you go just like that, I really can't do anything to you if you go back on your word. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunrin paused for a moment, but immediately after, he did not wait for Tianhua to reply and continued. So before you leave, I have one more thing to do. What is it? Tianhua clenched his teeth and looked at Zhang Chunrin, asking sternly, Zhang Chunrin, what else haven't you done? Zhang Chunrin nodded and said with a smile, Tianhua, before you leave, I want to cripple your martial arts so that even if you go back on your word in the future, you won't have the strength to deal with me. Cripple my martial arts? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Tianhua was stunned at first. then suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. Zhang Chunrin, do you think you can cripple my martial arts? Zhang Chunrin nodded. Etianhua, don't try to be brave. You're already heavily injured. If the three of us want to deal with you, it'll be a piece of cake. If you listen to me and let me cripple your martial arts, don't worry, I'll definitely let you go. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunrin paused and laughed coldly before continuing. Etianhua, if you don't listen to me, then don't blame me for using force, understand? Ha! Etianhua laughed and said, Zhang Chunrin, I really didn't expect that after so many years in the martial arts world, there would be someone who wants to cripple my martial arts. What a joke, huh? Zhang Chunrin frowned. Etianhua, do you think it's funny? Etianhua laughed coldly and asked, Zhang Chunrin, do you think you have the strength to do this to me? Zhang Chunrin nodded. Of course I do. If I didn't, how would I dare to say this? Etianhua let out a long breath and laughed. Zhang Chunrin, if that's the case, then I won't agree to any of your conditions today. I'd like to see how you're going to cripple my martial arts. Zhang Chunrin laughed coldly and asked, Etianhua, you don't believe me? Etianhua nodded. I don't believe you. Just as Etianhua finished speaking, Zhang Chunrin's fingers suddenly moved. A thunderbolt bullet that he had been hiding in his hand was flicked out and flew towards Etianhua at lightning speed. Although Etianhua had been talking to Zhang Chunrin, he had also been paying attention to Zhang Chunrin's movements. When he saw something flying towards him, he immediately roared, and the long sword in his hand flashed out like lightning and hit the flying object. Boom! After Etianhua's sword touched the object, it didn't bounce back. Instead, it exploded violently. Scorching hot air and a strong explosive force immediately rushed towards Etianhua. Etianhua only felt a strong pressure hit him in the face, like a giant hammer hitting him. Before he could react, he was already blown away by the force of the explosion. Ah! Etianhua screamed as he landed on the ground. He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. He wanted to get up, but he felt a strong pain in his body. For a moment, he couldn't get up. Zhang Chunrin didn't chase after him. He sneered, Etianhua, do you believe me now? If I attack you now, can you run away? LV Hushan saw that Etianhua was seriously injured and hurriedly said, Etianhua, I advise you to surrender obediently. Otherwise, the next thunderbolt bullet will kill you. Yuan Weiqing's confidence also doubled. He took a step forward and said loudly, Etianhua, although Vice-Hall Master Zhang's conditions are very high, if you don't agree, I'm afraid you'll end up in a miserable state. I advise you to hurry up and agree. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. After hearing the three's words, Etianhua gritted his teeth and sat up from the ground. Due to his heavy injuries, he couldn't help but spit out another mouthful of blood. Etianhua panted a few times before saying, Zhang Chunrin, do you think that with just this thing, you can cripple my martial arts? After hearing Etianhua's words, Zhang Chunrin couldn't help but frown. Etianhua, at this point, are you still not going to admit defeat? Etianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunrin, I won't lose. If I don't want to, with your martial arts, you definitely won't be able to make me admit defeat. Zhang Chunrin sighed. Etianhua, do you still want me to attack? Chapter 785. Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Etianhua sighed. Zhang Chunrin, do you really want me to die with you? Hearing this, Zhang Chunrin's expression changed. He gritted his teeth. Etianhua, as long as you agree to my terms, you won't have to die with me. But if you don't agree, even if we die together, I won't let you go. Etianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunrin, 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. No matter what, I can't agree to that. If you're willing to lower your conditions, we can discuss it. Impossible. Zhang Chunrin laughed coldly and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing, saying loudly, Yuan Weiqing, why don't you go and take a look? What? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's order, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. His voice trembled as he asked, Vice-Hall Master Zhang, what did you say? You wanted to go and take a look? Zhang Chunrin laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, you don't dare. Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, Tianhua just said that he has the ability to die with us. If I go over, what if he? Zhang Chunren frowned and laughed coldly. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to be afraid. You're just a small character. Do you think that Tianhua will die with you? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment. Then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to reply, he continued, Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to worry. Even if Tianhua has the ability to take us down with him, he only has one chance. With your current status, I believe that he will definitely not perish together with you. You can rest assured. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at Tianhua and sighed. Tianhua, am I right? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua laughed coldly and shook his head. Zhang Chunren, regardless of whether you are right or not, why don't you come and try yourself? Hearing Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, Vice-Hall Master Zhang, Tianhua wants you to go over? Zhang Chunren glared at Yuan Weiqing. Do you think I'll go just because Tianhua tells me to? Tianhua, I guessed right. You're heavily injured. Even if you take us down with you, you only have one chance. You want me to go over and take you down with me? Tianhua, I'm telling you, that's impossible. I won't fall for your trick. Tianhua smiled. Zhang Chunren, I don't care if you believe me or not. If you dare to come over or attack me again, don't blame me for being impolite. Tianhua paused for a moment, but he did not wait for Zhang Chunren's reply and continued to speak. Zhang Chunren, I don't want to cause a fight between the two gangs, so I've been tolerating you and not being too harsh on you. If you really want to force me, then don't blame me for being merciless. Zhang Chunren nodded and said with a sneer, Tianhua, if you had done this from the beginning, I wouldn't have been able to do anything to you. But now, even if you've come to your senses, I'm afraid you can't do anything, right? Zhang Chunren suddenly turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and shouted, Yuan Weiqing, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and go over. LV Hushan also hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, don't hesitate. Do you really want to anger Vice-Hall Master Zhang? Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Tianhua and said in a trembling voice, Tianhua, I think you shouldn't force yourself. It's not good for everyone to die together. You should agree to Vice-Hall Master Zhang's conditions. He will definitely let you go. Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have to say anymore. I can't agree to Zhang Chunren's conditions. If I agree, our South County Shadow Alliance will be destroyed, so I won't agree. Tianhua turned to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed. Zhang Chunren, could it be that your real goal is to destroy the South County Shadow Alliance? Zhang Chunren shook his head. Tianhua, you're wrong. What good will it do me to destroy the South County Shadow Alliance? I just want you to agree to my conditions. If you agree, I promise to let you go. I won't go back on my word. Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Tianhua to answer him, he sighed and continued. Tianhua, you know that it's impossible for you to leave safely today. Why don't you agree to my conditions? As long as you let me cripple your martial arts and agree to my conditions, I promise that I won't hurt any of you. In fact, if someone wants to harm you in the future, I'll help you. Can't I do that? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Tianhua sighed and said slowly, Zhang Chunren, I'm starting to suspect that your son's matter should be a scam, right? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren's expression changed, and he said loudly, Tianhua, what nonsense are you talking about? How can my son's matter be a scam? LV Hushan also hurriedly said, Tianhua, don't talk nonsense. Zhang Huoxing is the son of Vice-Hall Master Zhang. No matter what, Vice-Hall Master Zhang wouldn't use his son as a scam. Tianhua, you're going too far. Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, no matter how you explain it, I still suspect this matter. Otherwise, so many things wouldn't have happened. If such a thing really happened, the 1 million gold coins I said would be enough. I believe that anyone would agree to my conditions. Tianhua turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed again. Zhang Chunren, what about you? I gave you 3 million gold coins, but you refused to settle this matter. You weren't even willing to give me 5 million gold coins. In your conditions, 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information, I believe that no one would be able to offer such conditions. Although your son was killed by the snow leopard, I believe that you understand that this was just a mistake. Our South County Shadow Alliance does nothing more than sell information. Speaking of which, your son's matter has nothing to do with us. However, you just had to hold on to this point and even set out such harsh conditions. This really made people a little suspicious. Zhang Chunren, what's your purpose? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren was stunned. Then, he sneered, Yi Tianhua, you really know how to think. Let me tell you, what you're thinking is wrong. Even if you give me 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information, I'm not willing to let my son be killed. Do you understand? Yi Tianhua shook his head and sighed. Zhang Chunren, I'm already so seriously injured that I can't resist anymore. Are you still unwilling to tell me your true purpose? Zhang Chunren suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed. After laughing, he said coldly, Yi Tianhua, my true purpose is to make you give me 10 million gold coins and 5 years of free information. Are you a little disappointed? Yi Tianhua shook his head. I'm really disappointed. Even now, you're still unwilling to tell the truth. You've really disappointed me. Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and suddenly shouted, Yuan Weiqing, since you don't want to deal with Yi Tianhua, go now and kill Home Master Shui. Do you understand? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He didn't expect Zhang Chunren to ask him to do this again. Vice-Hall Master Zhang, I think it's better to wait until we're done with Yi Tianhua before killing Home Master Shui. Zhang Chunren shook his head and said coldly, Yuan Weiqing, this is the last chance I'm giving you. If you don't do it, don't blame me for being impolite. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua's expression suddenly changed. He said in shock, Zhang Chunren, could it be that the person you really want to deal with is actually Hall Master Shui? Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. However, he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer him and continued. I understand. Zhang Chunren, you want to use me to kill Hall Master Shui. Then you can control the secret Thunder sect in the South County, right? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunren's expression finally changed. He hesitated for a moment and suddenly sneered. Yi Tianhua, you're smart. That's right. I want to deal with Hall Master Shui. So I set up this trap and let you kill Hall Master Shui. At this point, Zhang Chunren's tone paused. He sighed and continued. But I didn't expect that at such a critical moment, you still wouldn't be willing to be heavy-handed. It seems that I can only do it myself. Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and nodded. Zhang Chunren, it seems that my guess is right. I'm a tool to deal with Hall Master Shui. Zhang Chunren nodded. Yi Tianhua, it's not too late for you to understand. I just don't understand. You clearly had the chance to kill Hall Master Shui just now. Why didn't you do it? Do you think that there's still a chance to turn things around? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, to be honest, although I'm not very familiar with Hall Master Shui, I've heard of his character, so I don't believe that these things are his idea. It's precisely because of this reason that I showed mercy to him and didn't kill him. Yi Tianhua turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed again. Zhang Chunren, I never thought that you would use your son's matter to do such a thing. It's really unexpected. Zhang Chunren sneered and pointed at Shui Ji Zheng in the distance. Yi Tianhua, do you think that this trash is useful as the Hall Master of the secret Thunder sect in the South County? At this point, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer him. Yi Tianhua, let me tell you, if this trash wasn't the Hall Master of the secret Thunder sect in the South County and I was the Hall Master, then I'm sure that the power of the secret Thunder sect in the South County would at least double. However, even if I have 1,000 abilities, as long as I can't become the Hall Master, I can't do anything. Yi Tianhua, I can't just watch the secret Thunder sect in the South County stagnate, so I can only make him disappear. I'll be the Hall Master of the secret Thunder sect in the South County. Only in this way can the secret Thunder sect in the South County become stronger. After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. Zhang Chunren, You're wrong. It's not that Hall Master Shui doesn't have the ability to expand the power of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County, but he doesn't want to because he knows that if he wants to expand his power, he will have to pay a price. And this price is the brothers of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County. Hall Master Shui doesn't want these brothers to suffer losses, so he didn't do that. Zhang Chunrin, I think so too. So the power of the South County Shadow Alliance won't expand by much. And your idea might be able to expand the power of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County, but you'll lose too many brothers. The gains won't make up for the losses. After hearing Yi Tianhua's explanation, Zhang Chunrin sneered. Yi Tianhua, you and Hall Master Shui are both useless. Although your martial arts are higher than mine, you don't have the ambition to improve. The gang will definitely not make any progress in your hands. Therefore, Yi Tianhua can only ask you to step down. Do you understand? Yi Tianhua shook his head. Zhang Chunrin, even if your strength increases, any benefits will be exchanged for by the loss of your brothers. Do you think it's worth it? Zhang Chunrin asked with a sneer. Why isn't it worth it? There are so many gangs who don't hesitate to lose more brothers in order to expand their territory. Only you two idiots are still here. You're really delaying things. Yi Tianhua shook his head and said with a bitter smile, Zhang Chunrin, actually, if you have this idea, you can discuss it with Hall Master Shui. I believe that he's not an ungrateful person. As long as you can persuade him, won't the matter be resolved? Why do you have to go to such an extent? Zhang Chunrin snorted coldly. Yi Tianhua, do you think I haven't done this before? But do you know what Hall Master Shui said? He said exactly the same thing as you. You both feel that it's not worth it? Haha, I don't understand. You can clearly increase your strength, but why don't you do it? You're still pretending to be afraid of losing brothers. It's really funny. Yi Tianhua, it's Hall Master Shui who didn't agree to my suggestion. I had no choice, so I could only do this. If you want to blame someone, blame himself. He's the one who doesn't have the ability. I can only do it for him. After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yi Tianhua sighed and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. He asked with a bitter smile, Yuan Weiqing, are you willing to do Zhang Chunrin's suggestion? Yuan Weiqing didn't expect Yi Tianhua to suddenly ask him. He was stunned for a moment. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. However, he was also shocked. He never expected that today's matter would develop into such a situation. He originally thought that today was just to seek justice for Vice Hall Master Shui. He never expected that Zhang Chunrin would use this opportunity to deal with Hall Master Shui. This was something he never expected. Chapter 786. Zhang Chunrin frowned when he saw Yuan Weiqing standing there motionless. Yuan Weiqing, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and go. Yuan Weiqing hesitated for a moment and gritted his teeth. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, can I not go? Zhang Chunrin suddenly sneered and turned to look at LV Hushan. LV Hushan, if Yuan Weiqing doesn't do it, what will you do? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan was stunned for a moment and then realized something. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, I advise you to go. If you don't listen to Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, don't blame me for being impolite. Yuan Weiqing shook his head with a wry smile. LV Hushan, can I quit? I don't want to do it. LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, now that things have come to this, do you really think that you can still retreat? I advise you to obediently go so that I don't have to do anything. Yuan Weiqing's face suddenly changed. LV Hushan, do you want to attack me? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, if you obey, I won't attack you. But if you don't obey, don't blame me for being impolite. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, I don't want to compete with you. Are you still unwilling to let me go? LV Hushan frowned. Yuan Weiqing, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang has given you several chances, but you didn't seize them. You can only blame yourself. Now is your only chance. If you don't seize it, you won't have another chance. Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Zhang Chunrin and sighed. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, let me go. I really can't do it. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunrin sneered and turned to look at LV Hushan. He shouted, "LV Hushan, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and kill Yuan Weiqing." "Yes." LV Hushan responded and walked toward Yuan Weiqing. "Yuan Weiqing, since you don't want to do it, I can only do it." Seeing LV Hushan walking over, Yuan Weiqing's face suddenly changed. He hurriedly waved his hand. "LV Hushan, don't come over. Do you really want to attack me?" LV Hushan clenched his teeth. "Yuan Weiqing, it's still not too late if you take action now. Hall Master Shui hasn't woken up yet. You only need to take action to solve the problem. Why are you so stubborn?" LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer him. Instead, he snorted coldly and continued to speak. "Yuan Weiqing, let's see if you want to protect yourself or Hall Master Shui. However, do you think that even if you want to protect Hall Master Shui, he will be fine? It's useless. Even if you want to protect him, I'm afraid you won't be able to do so. You'll just be sacrificing yourself." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed in his heart. He knew that what LV Hushan said was true. Even if he didn't want to kill Hall Master Shui, he definitely couldn't change the final result. Hall Master Shui would still be killed. Yuan Weiqing could also see that Yi Tianhua was seriously injured and didn't have much martial arts left. Among the people present, only Zhang Chunren's martial arts were the highest. Under such circumstances, if anyone dared to disobey Zhang Chunren's orders, there was only one way to go. Moreover, Yuan Weiqing also understood that the future Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region would probably be Zhang Chunren. Therefore, Hall Master Shui had to die. Looking at LV Hushan walking over before Yuan Weiqing could say anything, Yi Tianhua suddenly said, "LV Hushan, you and Yuan Weiqing are both from the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region. Are you really going to attack him?" LV Hushan turned to look at Yi Tianhua and gritted his teeth. "Yi Tianhua, you don't have to care about the matters of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region." Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yi Tianhua sighed. "LV Hushan, why are you so stupid? Do you think that you'll be fine if you kill Yuan Weiqing now?" At this point, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he snorted coldly and continued. "LV Hushan, you're wrong. I'm sure that even if you kill Yuan Weiqing and Hall Master Shui, your ending won't be any better. Do you think that Zhang Chunren will let others know after killing Hall Master Shui? He won't. For safety's sake, he will definitely kill you to keep this secret. Don't you understand? LV Hushan, if I were you, I would join forces with Yuan Weiqing now and go as far as I can. Otherwise, by the time you kill Yuan Weiqing, you'll also be killed." After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan was stunned. He lowered his head and thought for a moment before his expression turned ugly. He turned to look at Zhang Chunren and asked in a trembling voice, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, is what Yi Tianhua said true? Will you really get rid of me?" Hearing LV Hushan's question, Zhang Chunren sneered and shook his head. "LV Hushan, it's no wonder that Yi Tianhua said you're stupid. You're really stupid. Under such circumstances, do you think I'll get rid of you?" Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. "LV Hushan, you won't. After I get rid of Hall Master Shui, I'll become a Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region. It'll be time for me to use people. As long as you listen to me, you'll be one of us. Why would I get rid of you?" LV Hushan, don't listen to Yi Tianhua's nonsense. You just have to do it, understand? Hearing Zhang Chunren's answer, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded and asked in a trembling voice, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, you really won't do anything to me, right?" Zhang Chunren waved his hand impatiently. "LV Hushan, didn't you hear what I said just now? Don't worry, you're still useful. I won't do anything to you." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused before continuing, "LV Hushan, if you do your job well and cultivate martial arts in the future, maybe I'll let you be the Vice Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South region. Isn't that good?" Hearing this, LV Hushan was overjoyed and hurriedly nodded. "Thank you, Vice Hall Master Zhang. No, it should be Hall Master Zhang." After listening to LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren nodded with satisfaction. LV Hushan, since you understand, why don't you hurry up and do it? Do you want to wait for me to say more? LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a sneer, Yuan Weiqing, did you hear that? If you kill home Master Shui now, you still have a little chance. But if you don't do it, then don't blame me for being ruthless. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. LV Hushan, can't you let me go this time for the sake of our friendship? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, you only have two choices now. One is to kill Hall Master Shui, and the other is to be killed by me. As for which one you choose, it's up to you. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren. Just as he was about to speak, Yi Tianhua suddenly said, Yuan Weiqing, do you want to agree to Zhang Chunren's words? Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua's tone paused before he continued. Yuan Weiqing, I have just said that even if you agree, I'm afraid it won't help. In the end, Zhang Chunren will definitely kill the two of you to silence you. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. Although he believed what Zhang Chunren said just now, at this moment, he seemed to believe Yi Tianhua's words more. Today's matter was only known to these few people. The more people who stayed, the greater the danger of the secret being leaked. With his martial arts, Zhang Chunren had completely gained the upper hand here. Therefore, in order to not let others know what happened here, he was very likely to do so. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and asked in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, if we listen to you, will you let us go this time? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, Zhang Chunren frowned and said impatiently, Yuan Weiqing, the three of us are members of the Tanlei sect in the South County. Even if I want to kill Hall Master Shui, I won't kill all the members of the Tanlei sect in the South County. Yuan Weiqing, the Tanlei sect in the South County is a very large gang and needs a lot of people to maintain it. You and LV Hushan are the protectors of the Tanlei sect in the South County. You are very experienced in managing the gang. If I kill the two of you, where can I find experienced people to manage the Tanlei sect in the South County for me? Yuan Weiqing, just listen to me. If you perform well, I will definitely not treat you unfairly. Do you understand? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was finally relieved. He turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, I have decided. I will join you and listen to Deputy Hall Master Zhang's orders to kill Hall Master Shui. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan hurriedly clapped and said with a smile, Yuan Weiqing, look, isn't this good? As long as you are obedient, we will be on the same side. Naturally, I won't do anything to you. Don't you think so? As soon as LV Hushan finished speaking, Yi Tianhua suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, do you really believe Zhang Chunren's words? Yuan Weiqing suddenly turned his head to look at Yi Tianhua and asked loudly, Yi Tianhua, since Deputy Hall Master Zhang said so, he will definitely do it. Don't talk nonsense here. I won't believe you. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Yi Tianhua sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, why don't you understand? Zhang Chunren planned today's matter. His purpose is naturally not to let others know. Think about it. If he becomes the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder sect in the South County in the future, and the two of you know about this matter, once you tell others, it will definitely not be good news for him. Maybe it will cause a dispute because of you. The gains will not make up for the losses. Therefore, it seems that only by killing the two of you can we really keep this secret. Yuan Weiqing, believe me, even if you kill Hall Master Shui, Zhang Chunren will definitely kill you. Don't you understand? Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan said loudly, Yi Tianhua, don't talk nonsense there. Deputy Hall Master Zhang will not lie to us. Hearing everyone's words, Zhang Chunren sneered, Yi Tianhua, don't talk there. No one will believe you. You're wasting your energy there. If I were you, I would have gone to the side to recuperate. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, I'll tell you clearly. If the two of you are willing to work for me, It proves that you are still useful. Since you are still useful to me, why should I get rid of you? Don't listen to Yi Tianhua's nonsense. Hurry up and do your work. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I'll do it now. After saying this, Yuan Weiqing turned to leave. Before he could take a few steps, Yi Tianhua sneered. Yuan Weiqing, logically speaking, since you don't believe me, I shouldn't try to persuade you anymore. However, Hall Master Shui and I are both victims. I can't watch you kill him. He wants to say something to you. I can tell you with certainty that if you get rid of Hall Master Shui now, the next person to be killed will definitely be you. Yuan Weiqing, if you still don't want to listen to me, then I won't persuade you anymore. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. He turned to look at Yi Tianhua and gritted his teeth. Yi Tianhua, I don't believe you. Yi Tianhua sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, don't lie to yourself. If you don't believe me, why did you stop to talk to me? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was even more shocked. He hurriedly waved his hand. Yi Tianhua, you're talking nonsense. I'm talking to you because I want to tell you that no matter what you say, I won't believe you. Yi Tianhua shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, don't lie to yourself. If you don't believe me, you would have already done it. Why did you stop to talk to me? Yuan Weiqing, since you also believe me, then don't do this wrong thing. Because even if you do, you won't have a chance to live. Since that's the case, why add another bad reputation? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing finally sighed and said with a wry smile, Yi Tianhua, if you were me, what would you do? Hearing this, Yi Tianhua frowned and said with a wry smile, Yuan Weiqing, if I were you, I would definitely not listen to Zhang Chunren and be manipulated by him. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing sighed again, Yi Tianhua, but if I don't do it now, LV Hushan will attack me. Do you mean that I should stand here and wait for LV Hushan to attack me? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Yi Tianhua turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a smile, LV Hushan, you're all from the Secret Thunder sect in the South region. Why do you have to kill each other? I think it's better for you to stop fighting. What do you think? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan was stunned. For a moment, he was speechless. Chapter 787. Zhang Chunran saw that LV Hushan didn't make a move and frowned. LV Hushan, are you not going to listen to me? Hearing Zhang Chunran's voice, LV Hushan was shocked and hurriedly said, No, I won't. Zhang Chunran yelled, LV Hushan, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and kill Yuan Weiqing for me. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He didn't wait for LV Hushan to speak and said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I've lost my martial arts and am no threat to you. Why do you still want to kill me? Zhang Chunran sneered. Yuan Weiqing, I need an obedient subordinate. Do you understand? LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I advise you to listen to me. If you don't do it, I won't go easy on you. Yi Tianhua hurriedly said, LV Hushan, you still don't understand. Even if you do it, the result will be the same. Hearing this, LV Hushan turned to Zhang Chunran and asked tentatively, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, if I listen to you, you won't do anything to me, right? Zhang Chunran waved his hand and said with a smile, LV Hushan, why would I? I've already said that as long as you listen to me, I won't treat you badly. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunran paused and suddenly said coldly, LV Hushan, if you don't listen to me, then don't blame me for being impolite. Do you understand? Hearing Zhang Chunran's promise, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I understand. Don't worry, I'll listen to you. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunran nodded with satisfaction. LV Hushan, since you're obedient, why don't you hurry up and do it? LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing with cold eyes. Yuan Weiqing, I'll ask you one more time. Are you going to kill Hall Master Shui or not? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. When he was about to speak, he heard Yi Tianhua say loudly, Yuan Weiqing, don't be afraid. Come to me. He won't dare to do anything to you. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was overjoyed. He quickly walked over to Yi Tianhua, as if he had found a life-saving straw. Seeing that Yuan Weiqing was about to leave, LV Hushan hurriedly chased after him. However, the distance between them was not far. LV Hushan had only taken 2 steps when Yuan Weiqing had already hidden behind Yi Tianhua. LV Hushan, don't come over. Yi Tianhua suddenly threw his head back and laughed. Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. He won't dare to come. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan was taken aback. He snapped, Yi Tianhua, do you really want to go against me? Yi Tianhua sneered, LV Hushan, so what? Although I'm injured now, it won't be easy for you to deal with me. LV Hushan clenched his teeth and suddenly sneered, Yi Tianhua, don't force yourself. You're already injured and can't stand up. Do you still want to fight me? Yi Tianhua raised the long sword in his hand and said coldly, LV Hushan, if you don't believe me, come and try me. I'll let you know my real swordsmanship. Hearing this, LV Hushan wanted to step forward, but he didn't dare. After all, Yi Tianhua's martial arts were too high. Even if he was injured now, LV Hushan wasn't confident that he could defeat him. LV Hushan was shocked. He hurriedly turned to Zhang Chunrin and asked in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, what should we do? Seeing the situation in front of him, Zhang Chunrin couldn't help but frown. He sneered and said, LV Hushan, what are you afraid of? Yi Tianhua is seriously injured and can't even stand up. Are you still afraid of him? After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan looked at Yi Tianhua, who was sitting on the ground, and felt even more scared. Yi Tianhua, don't scare me. I'm afraid you can't even move right now, huh? Yi Tianhua sighed, LV Hushan, if you don't believe me, come and try me. Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer, he snorted and continued. LV Hushan, do you know that some swordsmanship doesn't require internal force? As long as the swordsmanship is good, it can exert great power. LV Hushan, do you want to come and try? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, LV Hushan, that's right. Hero Yi's martial arts are very high. You're definitely no match for him. I advise you to go back obediently and don't come over. Hearing this, LV Hushan's courage dissipated. He gritted his teeth and said, Yuan Weiqing, if you know what's good for you, come over obediently and listen to Deputy Hall Chief Zhang's orders. It's not too late now. If you insist on going about things the wrong way, it'll be too late when Deputy Hall Chief Zhang gets angry. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. No, I won't go over. Yi Tianhua has made it very clear just now. Even if I do, I'm afraid that Deputy Hall Chief Zhang will kill me in the end. In this case, why should I do it? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused and sighed before continuing. LV Hushan, I advise you to come over too. Even if you listen to Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, I'm afraid you'll have a miserable ending in the end. It's better to fight now. Maybe there's still a way out. Yi Tianhua smiled faintly. LV Hushan, Yuan Weiqing has already thought this through. Don't you understand? Hearing this, LV Hushan was stunned. He turned his head to look at Zhang Chunrin again and asked in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, is what they said true? When it's done, will you really not let me go? Zhang Chunrin waved his hand and said with a smile, LV Hushan, why would you listen to them? Why would I kill you? I've already said that even if I become the Hall Chief of the Tanlei sect in the South Commandery, I still need someone to work for me. LV Hushan, I promise you that as long as you listen to me and get rid of Yuan Weiqing and Hall Chief Xue for me, I'll never do anything to you. Is that okay? LV Hushan gritted his teeth. Deputy Hall Chief Zhang, but how can I trust you? Hearing LV Hushan's question, Zhang Chunrin sighed and said slowly, LV Hushan, what should I say? Think about it. Why do I want you to get rid of Hall Chief Xue? It's because as long as you do it, I'll have something on you. At that time, if you don't listen to me, it'll be easy for me to use this against you. Most importantly, if I have something on you, you'll be my most loyal subordinate. Think about it. Will I still do anything to you? Hearing this, LV Hushan was overjoyed. He suddenly felt that if Deputy Hall Chief Zhang had something on him, he would be much safer. If Deputy Hall Chief Zhang did not have something on him, he would not be able to control him and could only get rid of him. However, if he had something on him, wouldn't he be the most obedient subordinate? Even he would not have the heart to get rid of such a loyal subordinate, right? After thinking about this, LV Hushan suddenly realized that it was not a bad thing to have something on him in Deputy Hall Chief Zhang's hands. LV Hushan's suspicions immediately dissipated as he suddenly turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing, as he laughed and said, "Yuan Weiqing, did you hear that? If Vice Hall Master Zhang had a handle on me, then he would not have done anything to me. So, don't talk nonsense over there. Yuan Weiqing, I advise you to come over quickly and get rid of Hall Chief Shui for us. As long as Deputy Hall Chief Zhang has something on you, you'll be very safe." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing's heart suddenly moved. He suddenly realized that LV Hushan's words seemed to make sense. Since Deputy Hall Chief Zhang had something on him, it seemed that he really did not have to get rid of him. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing secretly glanced at Yi Tianhua beside him and could not help but frown. Although Yi Tianhua could still pick up a long sword, Yuan Weiqing could feel that he was very weak now. Perhaps it was just as Vice Hall Leader Zhang had said. Even if he used all his strength, he could only launch one attack. In this case, it would be very dangerous for him to hide beside Yi Tianhua. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yi Tianhua sighed. "LV Hushan, why are you still so stubborn? Do you really believe what Zhang Chunren said?" LV Hushan sneered. "Yi Tianhua, don't try to sow discord. I know what you mean. You want me to save you, right? Haha. Yi Tianhua, I tell you I won't save you. Don't try to sow discord here." LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and sighed. "Yuan Weiqing, we're friends. I really don't have the heart to hurt you. But if I don't do it, I'm afraid that I'll be the one killed. So don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for not being obedient." After saying this, LV Hushan walked towards Yuan Weiqing. Yuan Weiqing suddenly broke out in cold sweat and said loudly, "LV Hushan, if you continue to walk forward, Yi Tianhua won't go easy on you." LV Hushan shook his head. "Yuan Weiqing, stop dreaming. If Yi Tianhua wasn't injured, he might have been able to protect you. But now, I don't believe that he can be my opponent when he's so heavily injured. If Yi Tianhua dares to stop me, then don't blame me for not going easy on him. Is that so?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yi Tianhua suddenly sneered. "LV Hushan, do you really think that I'm not your opponent?" LV Hushan sneered. "Yi Tianhua, don't lie to me. If you still have martial arts, I'm afraid that you won't be here talking to me. You'll directly attack me, right?" Yi Tianhua sighed. "LV Hushan, if you want to try, I won't stop you. But I hope that you won't regret it." Saying this, Yi Tianhua picked up the sword in his hand and said slowly, "My sword rarely hurts people. But if you want to try today, then I'll fulfill your wish." Hearing this, LV Hushan was shocked. He subconsciously stopped and stared at Yi Tianhua. After a while, he asked tentatively, "Yi Tianhua, I'm not attacking you this time, but the people behind you. If you don't attack, I won't attack you either. What do you think?" Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and hurriedly said, "Yi Tianhua, I only listened to you because you told me to hide here. You can't leave me alone." Yi Tianhua shook his head. "LV Hushan, you heard it. I asked Yuan Weiqing to come here. If you hurt him in front of me, then I won't keep my word." LV Hushan frowned and gritted his teeth. "Yi Tianhua, do you really want to go against me?" Yi Tianhua shook his head. "LV Hushan, it's not that I want to go against you. It's you who wants to go against me." LV Hushan wanted to say more, but Zhang Chunren was already impatient and shouted, "LV Hushan, do you have to spend so much effort to deal with Yuan Weiqing? Hurry up and do it." Hearing Zhang Chunren's urging, LV Hushan subconsciously clenched his fists and stared at Yi Tianhua. He said loudly, "Yi Tianhua, I'll ask you one more time. As long as you don't interfere in this matter, I won't attack you. Do you agree? Etienne sighed. LV Hushan, it doesn't matter whether I agree or not. What's important is that you still don't understand. Even if you get rid of Yuan Weiqing, Zhang Chunrin will never let you go. Why do you have to do this? LV Hushan sneered. Etienne, you don't have to worry about my matters. As long as I do as Vice Hall Leader Zhang says, nothing will happen. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Etienne sighed and turned to look at Zhang Chunrin in the distance. He said slowly, Zhang Chunrin, since you want to test me, why don't you do it yourself? Hearing Etienne's question, Zhang Chunrin sneered. Etienne, why should I do it myself? You're already powerless now. Why should I do it? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunrin paused and snorted before continuing. Etienne, if I'm not wrong, even LV Hushan can easily defeat you, right? Etienne frowned. Zhang Chunrin, I've already said that even if I'm seriously injured now, I definitely have the ability to perish together with you. If you don't believe me, you can come and try. You'll know if it's true or not. Zhang Chunrin shook his head and sneered. You're just a loser. What qualifications do you have to negotiate with me? After saying this, Zhang Chunrin immediately turned to look at LV Hushan and said loudly, LV Hushan, what are you waiting for? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's order, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded. He clenched his fists and walked towards Yuan Weiqing. Just as LV Hushan took a step forward, he saw Etienne's eyes turn cold. The sword in his hand trembled in the air. LV Hushan was shocked and subconsciously stopped. Etienne sneered and asked, LV Hushan, why aren't you leaving? Are you afraid? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said, LV Hushan, you can't beat Etienne. Chapter 788. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hesitated for a moment and suddenly sneered. Etienne, you're trying to scare me. Do you think I'm afraid? Etienne shook his head. LV Hushan, since you're not afraid, hurry up and come over. Zhang Chunrin suddenly said loudly. LV Hushan, you don't have to be afraid. Etienne is seriously injured. How can he be your opponent? After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan's eyes suddenly lit up. He sneered and said, Etienne, I won't be fooled by you. After saying this, LV Hushan pulled out his saber and slowly walked towards Etienne. Etienne, if you dodge now, I won't attack you. If you're still stubborn, then don't blame me for being impolite. Etienne sighed. LV Hushan, since you're so confident, then I'll show you what real swordsmanship is. Speaking of this, Etienne paused for a moment before continuing. LV Hushan, I want to ask, how do you want to be killed? Do you want me to finish you off with a piece of iron, or leave you covered in injuries? Hearing the choice given by Etienne, LV Hushan was taken aback. He subconsciously stopped and stared at Etienne. Etienne, are you really going to protect Yuan Weiqing? Etienne nodded. LV Hushan, I've already said that I asked Yuan Weiqing to come over, so I'm responsible for his safety. LV Hushan, if you're willing, you can come over. Don't worry, as long as you're behind me. Zhang Chunrin will definitely not dare to attack you. Just as Etienne finished speaking, Zhang Chunrin suddenly sneered. Etienne, do you think that with your current martial arts, you can still be my opponent? Zhang Chunrin turned to look at LV Hushan and shouted sternly. LV Hushan, I'm telling you, I'm only giving you this one chance. If you don't listen, then you're useless. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunrin paused and sneered before continuing. LV Hushan, do you know what will happen to you if you're useless? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded and said loudly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, don't worry, I'll do it now. After saying this, LV Hushan once again walked towards Etienne. At this moment, he was only a few steps away from Etienne. Seeing that LV Hushan didn't listen to his advice and continued walking towards him, Etienne sighed and said slowly, LV Hushan, I didn't want to hurt you, but since you won't listen, don't blame me." At the same time, LV Hushan gritted his teeth and suddenly shouted. The blade in his hand swung towards Yi Tianhua like a flash of lightning, accompanied by the sound of the wind. Yi Tianhua sneered. He held his sword with one hand and gently waved it in the air. A light screen rose up in front of him. Hushan twos, it's to a test. LV Hushan flew for 4 or 5 meters before landing heavily on the ground and wailing. His injury was very serious. His arm that held the sword had been cut off. Now, he was like Yuan Weiqing, unable to fight. Yuan Weiqing, who was standing behind Yi Tianhua, was shocked when he saw this scene. But then, he was overjoyed. Yi Tianhua didn't lose his martial arts. With his swordsmanship, he could definitely ensure his safety. Looking at LV Hushan wailing in pain, Zhang Chunrin suddenly sneered because he saw Yi Tianhua spit out another mouthful of blood. Yi Tianhua sighed. LV Hushan, why are you so stubborn? I've already told you that you're no match for me, but you didn't listen, so I can only attack you. Clap, clap, clap. Hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Zhang Chunrin suddenly clapped his hands and said with a smile, Yi Tianhua, you really can't bear to attack. I think that if you didn't show mercy, LV Hushan would have been killed. Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and shook his head. Zhang Chunrin, I showed mercy to you because I didn't want to cause a fight between the two gangs. If you insist on attacking me, then I'll have no choice but to be heavy-handed. Haha. Hearing this, Zhang Chunrin suddenly looked up and laughed. Yi Tianhua, I didn't expect you to still be able to say such words. Yi Tianhua sneered. Zhang Chunrin, do you think that I can only deal with LV Hushan and not you? Zhang Chunrin shook his head. Yi Tianhua, you don't have to scare me. I can see that if LV Hushan hadn't attacked me, you would have been able to kill me. However, you used a lot of strength in that attack. I think that even if I attack you now, you won't be able to have the same number of attacks as before, right? Yi Tianhua smiled. Zhang Chunrin, if you don't believe me, you can try. I won't stop you. Speaking of this, Yi Tianhua paused for a moment before continuing. However, LV Hushan didn't believe me just now. So he ended up like this. I don't know if you want to end up like this too. Zhang Chunrin sneered and nodded. Yi Tianhua, although you're strong in martial arts, you're seriously injured and forced to use your true qi. You're no match for me, so don't boast anymore. I won't believe you. Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing, who was standing behind Yi Tianhua, hurriedly looked at Yi Tianhua. He was shocked, and a chill rose from the bottom of his heart, because he saw that Yi Tianhua's whole body was trembling slightly. Seeing Yi Tianhua's current state, Yuan Weiqing's ecstasy immediately disappeared. He thought that Yi Tianhua could protect him, but now it seemed that Yi Tianhua couldn't because he was seriously injured. Yuan Weiqing suddenly understood that before LV Hushan rushed over, Yi Tianhua had said that he could die together with Deputy Hall Leader Zhang. Now it seemed that it was indeed possible. However, after fighting with LV Hushan, Yi Tianhua probably didn't have the strength to die together with Deputy Hall Leader Zhang. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing subconsciously took a few steps back, wanting to sneak away. Zhang Chunrin suddenly shouted, Yuan Weiqing, where are you going? Did you ask me if you want to leave? After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He said with a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, I think we should forget about this. Let me go, and I promise not to cause you any trouble. Is that okay? Zhang Chunrin shook his head and said with a sneer, Yuan Weiqing, I only want obedient subordinates. Except for my own people, I don't allow anyone to be here. Do you understand? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded. Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, I'll leave now. Don't worry, I'll go far away and won't come back. Zhang Chunrin shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, it's too late. I've given you a chance, but you didn't take it. Now you want to leave. Do you think I can't catch you? Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing's face suddenly changed. He hurriedly said, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang, don't go too far. If you want to attack me, Etianhua will definitely protect me. Didn't you see LV Hushan's end? Etianhua. Hearing this, Zhang Chunrin looked up to the sky and laughed. Yuan Weiqing, do you think Etianhua still has the strength to protect you now? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunrin's tone paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yuan Weiqing to answer his words, he snorted coldly and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, to tell you the truth, after Etianhua and LV Hushan fought, his last trace of strength has been exhausted. If you want to rely on Etianhua to protect you, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. After hearing this, Yuan Weiqing subconsciously looked at Etianhua. When he could see clearly, the chill in his heart grew even stronger. This was because he saw that Etianhua was not only trembling, but even his body seemed to have shrunk a little. Could it be that Etianhua couldn't hold on and was going to fall? At this moment, cold sweat broke out on Yuan Weiqing's forehead. He suddenly realized that Etianhua really couldn't protect him. What should he do? Just as Yuan Weiqing was sweating from fear, Zhang Chunrin sneered again. Yuan Weiqing, you're a smart person. You know that I'm not lying to you. Now, Etianhua can no longer protect you. I'm sure you can tell. At this point, Zhang Chunrin paused and sighed before continuing. Yuan Weiqing, although you've disappointed me several times, you're still the protector of the Secret Thunder sect in the South County. I'll give you another chance now. As long as you capture Etianhua, I'll let bygones be bygones. What do you think? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was shocked and said in a trembling voice, No, I don't agree. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunrin sneered, Yuan Weiqing, this is the last chance I'm giving you. If you don't seize it, then don't blame me for being merciful. Hearing Zhang Chunrin's cold words, more cold sweat broke out on Yuan Weiqing's forehead. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Etianhua say in a low voice, Yuan Weiqing, run now and find the people of the Shadow Alliance in the South County. Tell them the truth and let them take revenge for us. Hearing Etianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He knew that this was a critical moment. Etianhua also knew that he couldn't beat Zhang Chunrin, so he asked him to run. But how can I outrun Vice Hall Master Zhang? Etianhua sighed. Now we can only rely on luck. In a while, run quickly. Then, I'll block Zhang Chunrin. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing frowned and asked tentatively, Etianhua, but your injuries are so serious now. Can you block Vice Hall Master Zhang? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, Etianhua sighed again. Yuan Weiqing, don't worry. I'll do my best. Hearing Etianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing understood that Etianhua had no confidence in blocking Zhang Chunrin's attack. However, if Etianhua couldn't block Zhang Chunrin, then even if he wanted to run, could he? Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing felt a chill all over his body, and his entire body was trembling slightly. Etianhua, how confident are you that you can block Vice Hall Master Zhang? Etianhua shook his head and said with a bitter smile, Yuan Weiqing, I won't hide it from you now. Let's rely on luck. If you're lucky, you should be able to escape. If you're unlucky, then we can only accept our fate. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing suddenly felt that he had fallen into a bottomless abyss. It was as if Vice Hall Master Zhang would rush over immediately. Yuan Weiqing subconsciously glanced at LV Hushan, only to find that LV Hushan had barely sat up and was wailing in pain. What should he do? Just as Yuan Weiqing was hesitating, Zhang Chunrin suddenly said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, have you thought it through? I can tell you the truth. If it weren't for the fact that you're the protector of the Secret Thunder sect in the South County, I wouldn't have said this to you. In addition, you did put in a lot of effort for my matter just now, so I'm giving you another chance. If you don't seize it, I can only apologize to you. After hearing this, LV Hushan, who had just gotten up, said in a trembling voice, Yuan Weiqing, you'd better listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang. Otherwise, you really won't have a chance. Etianhua suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, I really didn't expect that you would still be so stubborn even though I've already shown mercy to you. It seems that I really went easy on you just now. If I knew this would happen, I would have killed you directly. After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yi Tianhua, do you think that I'll be grateful to you if you show mercy to me? Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for Yi Tianhua to answer his words, he snorted coldly and continued. If I'm not wrong. The reason why you showed mercy to me is that you want to save some strength to deal with Vice Hall Master Zhang. But maybe you didn't expect your injury to be so serious. After you hurt me, it's probably impossible for you to deal with Vice Hall Master Zhang. Hee. Yi Tianhua sighed. LV Hushan, it seems that you still haven't come to your senses. If I knew this would happen, I really wouldn't have shown mercy to you. LV Hushan gritted his teeth. Yi Tianhua, it's no use. You broke my arm now. When Vice Hall Master Zhang catches you later, I'll take my revenge. Ha! Speaking of this, LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, if you're not blind, I think you should be able to see that Yi Tianhua can no longer protect you. If you know what's good for you, you'd better listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang's order and catch Yi Tianhua. Then you still have a chance. Otherwise, I don't need to tell you what will happen to you. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and said loudly, LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. Yi Tianhua's martial arts are still there. Why can't he protect me? Chapter 789. LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, do you really think that Yi Tianhua can protect you? Haha. Yuan Weiqing, stop dreaming. Now, you have no other choice but to surrender. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He subconsciously glanced at Yi Tianhua. He knew that Yuan Weiqing was right. Yi Tianhua might not be able to protect him. What should he do? Zhang Chunren suddenly sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, we are all from a secret thunder sect in the South County. I didn't want to do anything to you, but if you're still stubborn, I can only do something to you. Now, you only have one chance. Hurry up and capture Yi Tianhua. Not only will I let bygones be bygones, but the conditions I promised you before will still count. I will help you stand up again. Do you understand? Hearing these words, Yuan Weiqing's heart suddenly moved. He naturally knew what Zhang Chunren was talking about. That was what Zhang Chunren said at the beginning, to help him stand up again and cultivate a martial art like the one-armed saber king. As soon as he thought of this possibility, Yuan Weiqing's heart skipped a beat. Even his hands trembled slightly. Zhang Chunren said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, this is the last chance I'm giving you. If you don't seize it, then I can only say sorry. Zhang Chunren's words not only tempted Yuan Weiqing, but even LV Hushan was envious. He wished that Vice Hall Master Zhang had said those words to him. Looking at LV Hushan's jealous eyes, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and turned to look at Yi Tianhua's back. He kept thinking, what should I do? Yi Tianhua could no longer protect him now. If he continued to stand with him, they would definitely be in trouble together. However, if he chose to surrender, there would be no problem. All the crisis would be resolved. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing looked at Yi Tianhua with a cold gaze. He had secretly made up his mind to attack Yi Tianhua. Yi Tianhua naturally heard Zhang Chunren's words. He hurriedly turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said in a low voice, Yuan Weiqing, wait a minute. If I tell you to run, you run quickly, understand? After hearing Yi Tianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment, then hesitantly shook his head. Yi Tianhua, I think your injuries are too serious. Why don't you surrender? Yi Tianhua smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, even if I surrender, I'm afraid he won't let me go. Now, I only hope that you can escape and tell this news to the people of the South County Shadow Alliance. Let them take revenge for me. I'll be very grateful. After hearing this, Yuan Weiqing sighed in his heart. He already understood that Yi Tianhua already knew that he couldn't escape, so he hoped that Yuan Weiqing could escape and spread the news so that someone could avenge him. However, could he really escape? Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, are you really going to stand with Yi Tianhua? After saying that, Zhang Chunrin slowly walked towards Etianhua. Yuan Weiqing, if you still don't make a move, then don't blame me for being impolite. Seeing Zhang Chunrin walking over, Yuan Weiqing's heart pounded in fright. He knew that when Zhang Chunrin walked in front of him, neither he nor Etianhua would be spared. Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing suddenly gritted his teeth. Although Etianhua had warned him, at this moment, he couldn't care less. He could only say sorry. At this moment, Etianhua frowned. He turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said in a low voice, "I'll count to 1, 2, 3, and you run. Do you understand?" Although he heard Etianhua's words, Yuan Weiqing didn't answer. He just nodded silently, but his fists slowly clenched. Etianhua looked at Zhang Chunrin, who was getting closer and closer, and counted softly, 1, 2, 3, run. After Etianhua shouted this, he used the last of his strength and waved the long sword in his hand, stabbing towards Zhang Chunrin. At this moment, Yuan Weiqing's gaze turned cold. He clenched his fist and silently smashed it towards Etianhua. Although Yuan Weiqing only had one arm left, it only delayed his martial technique. It didn't affect his strength much. Etianhua had used all his strength to throw this punch, so its power was naturally not to be underestimated. Furthermore, Etianhua was already heavily injured, so by the time he realized what was happening, Yuan Weiqing's fist had already landed on his back. Yuan Weiqing's punch was extremely powerful. He didn't hold back as it landed on Etianhua's back. Etianhua immediately screamed in pain. He couldn't even hold the sword in his hand, and it fell to the ground. His entire body was actually sent flying 3 to 4 meters away before he landed heavily on the ground. Etianhua landed on the ground and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He lay there motionless. When Zhang Chunrin saw Yuan Weiqing attack, he had already stopped moving. When Etianhua was sent flying, he smiled and clapped. "Yuan Weiqing, good job. I didn't misjudge you. You really didn't disappoint me." Hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing immediately ran over with a smile. He bowed and said, "This is all thanks to you, Vice Hall Master Zhang. I only hit him when he wasn't paying attention." Zhang Chunrin nodded in satisfaction. "Yuan Weiqing, good job. Now go over and see how Etianhua is doing." Yuan Weiqing hurriedly responded and quickly walked towards Etianhua. When he came close to Etianhua, he saw Etianhua lying on the ground, gasping for breath. He struggled to sit up, but he couldn't. He could only helplessly glare at Yuan Weiqing. "Yuan Weiqing, why did you do this?" Yuan Weiqing smiled and shook his head. "Etianhua, have you forgotten? I'm from a secret thunder sect in the South County. Do you think I'll stand on your side? Haha, let me tell you, I was lying to you just now. You've been fooled." Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Etianhua was furious. Just as he was about to reprimand Yuan Weiqing, he felt a wave of discomfort. He couldn't help but spit out a few mouthfuls of blood and began to cough violently. Yuan Weiqing sighed and said slowly, "Etianhua, why are you so stupid? Don't you know that I'm from the secret thunder sect in the South County? Why do you trust me so much? Do you really think that I'll report for you? How ridiculous." Although Etianhua heard Yuan Weiqing's words, he couldn't say it because the violent coughing caused his entire body to hurt. Even the old man was a little dizzy. Yuan Weiqing stepped forward and kicked Etianhua twice. Then he turned to look at Zhang Chunrin and said with a smile, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, Etianhua is no longer a threat. What should we do next?" Zhang Chunrin waved his hand. "There's no rush." After saying this, Zhang Chunrin turned his head to look at LV Hushan. When LV Hushan arrived in front of him, he asked with concern, "LV Hushan, I really didn't expect you to be so seriously injured." Hearing Zhang Chunrin's greeting, LV Hushan suddenly felt warmth in his heart. He said with a choked voice, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, for the secret thunder sect in the South County, I'll do anything. I won't even frown." Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunrin nodded in satisfaction and said with a smile, "LV Hushan, you're good too. You didn't let me down." Speaking of this, Zhang Chunrin paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he continued, LV Hushan, you're seriously injured now. Can you still move? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his remaining arm and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I'm fine. Although I'm injured, it's nothing. I could do more for Vice Hall Master Zhang. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren was even more satisfied. He asked with a smile, LV Hushan, I'm asking you to kill Home Master Shui now. Are you willing to do it? Hearing this, LV Hushan was stunned, and the smile on his face froze. After a while, he forced a smile and said, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I'm afraid that I'm not Hall Master Shui's opponent with such a serious injury. Zhang Chunren frowned. LV Hushan, Hall Master Shui is seriously injured. What are you afraid of? Hearing this, LV Hushan suddenly lowered his voice and said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, when I was over there just now, I seem to have seen Shui Tang take the initiative. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused and continued, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I think Hall Master Shui seems to have woken up. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren was also shocked. He hurriedly turned his head to look. After looking for a while, he sneered and said, LV Hushan, no, you're just seeing things. Hall Master Shui is seriously injured. How can he wake up so quickly? Don't worry. Hurry up and kill him. Today's matter will basically come to an end. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan nodded and turned his head to look at Hall Master Shui. Suddenly, he was shocked and hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, look, Hall Master Shui seems to have moved again. He must have woken up. Zhang Chunren shook his head. LV Hushan, don't scare yourself. You're already timid. If you scare yourself like this, you'll take it seriously. Go quickly. There's absolutely no problem. How can Hall Master Shui wake up so easily? Seeing that Zhang Chunren didn't believe his words, LV Hushan hurriedly explained, It's true, Vice Hall Master Zhang. What I said is true. I really saw Shui Tang take the initiative. He must have woken up. Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at LV Hushan. He sighed and said slowly, LV Hushan, let me tell you, even if Hall Master Shui has woken up, he is seriously injured. Are you still afraid of him? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Vice Hall Master Zhang, Hall Master Shui's martial arts are superior. I'm really not his opponent. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for Zhang Chunren to answer his words, he raised his broken arm and continued to speak. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you see, my arm has been seriously injured. I don't have much martial arts left. If Hall Master Shui wakes up, I'm definitely not his opponent. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren frowned and asked with a sneer, LV Hushan, do you mean that once Hall Master Shui wakes up, you won't dare to deal with him? Looking at Zhang Chunren's angry face, LV Hushan whispered, Vice Hall Master Zhang, my martial arts are really not as good as his. Once he wakes up, I'm definitely not his opponent. After listening to LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren sighed. LV Hushan, if you encounter danger in the future and find that you can't solve it, won't you solve it? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan was stunned. Then he hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, that's not what I meant. If it weren't for Hall Master Shui, even if I know that I'm not his opponent, I would still go. Zhang Chunren turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said with a sneer, LV Hushan, do you know that when I become the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in South County, I will definitely choose some absolutely obedient people to be my subordinates. I originally wanted to train you well, but you still care about Hall Master Shui in your heart. How can I rest assured? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment before continuing. LV Hushan, take this as a test for you. If you can complete this test, you'll be my brother. But if you can't complete this test, you should be clear about the consequences, right? Hearing this, the cold sweat on LV Hushan's forehead suddenly flowed down. He hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I won't. I will listen to you. As long as it's your order, I will do it. Zhang Chunren nodded. LV Hushan, Yuan Weiqing has completed my test and has become my brother. Now it's up to you to complete my test. Do you understand? Yuan Weiqing, who had just walked over, was overjoyed when he heard Zhang Chunren's words. He hurriedly said to LV Hushan, LV Hushan, you'd better listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang's orders and kill Hall Master Shui quickly. Otherwise, you will regret it. Zhang Chunren smiled and nodded. LV Hushan, you see, even Yuan Weiqing understands this. Why don't you understand? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question. LV Hushan, go quickly. I will never treat you unfairly. If you do as I say, I will also help you complete the conditions I promised you. What do you think? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan's heart suddenly moved. He hurriedly asked, Vice Hall Master Zhang, you mean that if I kill Hall Master Shui, you will help me practice martial arts? Zhang Chunren smiled and nodded. LV Hushan, if you do this for me, you and Yuan Weiqing will naturally be my good brothers. Tell me, how can I treat my brothers unfairly? Yuan Weiqing also hurriedly said, LV Hushan, go quickly. You only have this one chance. If you don't seize it, you will really have no more chances. At that time, it will be too late for you to regret. Why don't we let Yuan Weiqing do it? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was furious. LV Hushan, Vice Hall Master Zhang asked you to do it. How can you refuse? Don't you want to do something for Vice Hall Master Zhang? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused and continued. LV Hushan, this is your only chance. If you don't seize it, Vice Hall Master Zhang won't be polite to you. LV Hushan sneered in his heart. He hurriedly turned to look at Vice Hall Master Zhang and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I didn't mean that. My arm is really injured now. You can see that I'm not lying to you. If it's possible, can you let me rest for a while? After I recover, I'll do it. Okay? Zhang Chunren looked at the injury on LV Hushan's arm and could not help but frown. LV Hushan, are you really unable to move? Hearing this, LV Hushan hurriedly nodded. Vice Hall Master Zhang, it's true. I won't lie to you. You see, even if Tianhua's martial arts are excellent, I still did it to him. What's more, Hall Master Shui has lost his martial arts. If I'm not injured, I will definitely listen to you and do it. Otherwise, you can wait and let me rest for a while. What do you think? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer his question and continued to speak. Vice Hall Master Zhang, if you can't wait, why don't you let Yuan Weiqing do it? Anyway, it's the same no matter who does it, right? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. Just as he was about to speak, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shouted, Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't listen to his nonsense. Even if the injury is serious, how can it be that he can't move at all? Vice Hall Master Zhang, he just doesn't want to work for you. So he said that he can't move his arm. Don't be fooled. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren could not help but frown. He turned to look at LV Hushan and asked coldly, LV Hushan, is what Yuan Weiqing said true? Are you lying to me? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan suddenly broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, how dare I lie to you? What I said is true. You have seen my injury. Even if I lie to you, you won't believe it, right? Vice Hall Master Zhang, my injury is really serious now. I need to rest for a while to get better. This is the truth. I didn't lie to you. Zhang Chunren turned to look at Yuan Weiqing. He hesitated for a moment, then said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, since LV Hushan can't do it, I think you should do it. It will save time. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly shocked and hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, LV Hushan is really lying to you. Although his arm is injured, his other arm is not injured. If he wants to do it, he can definitely do it. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, you are talking nonsense. I'm so seriously injured. How can I do it? Besides, I didn't say that I won't do it. I just said that I will rest for a while. When the pain subsides, I will go over. LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer him. He sneered and continued to speak without caring for Yuan Weiqing. Yuan Weiqing, I understand. Do you not want to listen to Vice Hall Master Zhang's order and do not want to do it? Could it be that you are still grateful to Hall Master Shui and hope that he will be our Hall Master again? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was so scared that he waved his hand and shouted, LV Hushan, what nonsense are you talking about? How can I have such thoughts? I think it's because you don't want to do it. You are still grateful to Hall Master Shui and hope that he will be the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County again. LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, since you don't mean that, then tell me, why don't you want to do it? Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and shouted, LV Hushan, don't forget that you are the one who wants to do it. It's because you don't want to do it that I said that. LV Hushan sneered, but my arm is injured and I can't do it anymore. Why don't you do it? Do you have other motives? You're talking nonsense. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and said, LV Hushan, your arm is injured, but my arm is not injured. Why can't you do it, but I can? I think you have other motives. You don't want to do it. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan raised his arm and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, look, your left arm is injured, and you usually use your right arm. As for me, my right arm is injured, which is the arm I always use. Then tell me, what can I do with my left arm that I don't use often? At this point, LV Hushan's tone paused. He smiled bitterly and continued with some sadness. Yuan Weiqing, to be honest, for so many years I have not used my left arm much. Now that I have lost my right arm, if I only use my left arm, I'm afraid I can't even pick up a knife. How can I fight? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing was stunned again. He looked at LV Hushan's injured arm and knew that LV Hushan was telling the truth. But at the same time, he suddenly felt refreshed. Just now, LV Hushan bullied him because his arm was broken and wanted to attack him. Now, LV Hushan had lost his important right arm. Humph! Let's see if he still dares to attack me in the future. After listening to the words of the two, Zhang Chunren frowned and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, since LV Hushan has suffered such a serious injury, I think you should go and do it. Anyway, it's a piece of cake. Why waste time? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing was taken aback. He subconsciously took a step back and said quickly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, how can this be? You asked LV Hushan to do it. Why do you want me to do it? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, don't you want to do it? Hearing this, before Yuan Weiqing could speak, LV Hushan said first, Yuan Weiqing, I think you are still grateful to Hall Master Shui. I'm afraid you want him to run away secretly and continue to be the Hall Master of the Tanlei sect in the South region. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly became angry and said loudly, LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. Although Hall Master Shui promoted me, it was all because of my hard work. If I didn't work hard enough, how could he promote me? So, why should I be grateful to him? Don't worry about it. I think you... Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused. Suddenly, his heart moved. He turned to look at LV Hushan and sneered before continuing. LV Hushan, I remember. I finally remember. It turns out that you are really grateful to Hall Master Shui. Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said loudly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, do you know how LV Hushan got the protector position? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned and asked with some doubts. I remember that LV Hushan got it by himself, and the test question was set by me. Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused, thought for a moment, and then continued. I remember that the test's topic was to ask him to go to the back of the mountain to get a piece of spirit stone, and he did it. So, he was made a protector? While speaking, Zhang Chunren suddenly frowned. He turned to look at LV Hushan and asked tentatively, LV Hushan, I remember that your martial arts are not very high, and the snow leopard in the back of the mountain is not something you can deal with your martial arts. When you went to the back of the mountain to get the spirit stone, you didn't seem to be injured at all. Zhang Chunren's brows furrowed even tighter as he muttered to himself. No, LV Hushan, with your martial arts. Even if you were able to obtain the spirit stones, I'm afraid you would have been seriously injured. But why aren't you injured? Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, why is LV Hushan not injured? I know. Before Yuan Weiqing finished speaking, he was interrupted by an anxious LV Hushan. Yuan Weiqing, don't talk nonsense. This matter has nothing to do with you. Don't talk nonsense. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of coldness. He turned to look at LV Hushan and asked with a smile, By the way, LV Hushan, tell me, with your martial arts, it is impossible to deal with the snow leopard, but why are you not injured and can get the spirit stone? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand and said in a panic, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, it's luck. It's all luck. When I want to get the spirit stone, the snow leopard happened to not be there. In addition, I deliberately hid, so I was not discovered by the snow leopard, so I was not injured. After hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren shook his head. No, the snow leopard's perception is very strong. If someone enters its territory, it will definitely find out. No matter how good you are at hiding, you can't escape from the snow leopard's tracking. No, it's definitely not right. You want to rely on hiding to avoid the snow leopard's tracking. It's absolutely impossible. Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and asked loudly, LV Hushan, tell me, what is going on? Cold sweat on LV Hushan's forehead flowed down his cheeks. He hurriedly waved his hand and said in a trembling voice, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, it's really luck. It's my good luck. Maybe the snow leopard is asleep and did not find me. Zhang Chunren sneered. LV Hushan, do you think I will believe what you said? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren's tone paused before he continued. LV Hushan, let me tell you, even if the snow leopard is asleep, as long as someone appears near it, it will still find out. Do you understand? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. No, maybe it's my good luck. Maybe when the snow leopard is asleep, it will not find out that someone has broken into its territory. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren sighed and said slowly, LV Hushan, do you know that when I was a protector, the exam topic was to go to the back of the mountain to get spirit stone? So, I know the snow leopard very well. I'm sure that the reason why you were able to get the spirit stone back without any injuries is definitely not because the snow leopard was sleeping, but because of other reasons. LV Hushan, can you tell me what the reason is? Chapter 791. Hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, there is no other reason. There is really no other reason. Maybe I was lucky. Maybe the snow leopard was sick, so it didn't attack me. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren frowned and said, LV Hushan, that's impossible. How could a snow leopard be sick? LV Hushan hurriedly nodded and said, Luck, Vice Hall Master Zhang, it was all luck. There is really no other reason. LV Hushan had just said this, but before Zhang Chunren could speak, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered and said, LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. What is the reason? Do you still want to say it? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren could not help but frown. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked in a cold voice, Yuan Weiqing, do you know the reason? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded and said, Of course I know. Otherwise, how would I dare to say it? Zhang Chunren nodded and asked in a cold voice, Yuan Weiqing, well then tell me, how did LV Hushan get the spirit stones from the back mountain without suffering any injuries? Zhang Chunren had just finished speaking when LV Hushan hurriedly shouted, Yuan Weiqing, don't talk nonsense. What you said is false. No one will believe it. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered and said, LV Hushan, since no one will believe it, why are you afraid? LV Hushan gritted his teeth and said, Yuan Weiqing, I am not afraid. I am afraid that you will talk nonsense. After saying that, LV Hushan hurriedly turned his head to look at Zhang Chunrin and said loudly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you can't listen to Yuan Weiqing's words. He's just talking nonsense. None of it is true. Zhang Chunrin turned to look at LV Hushan and frowned. LV Hushan, since it is not true, why are you afraid? LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand and said, I am not afraid. I am just afraid that you will believe Yuan Weiqing's words. Zhang Chunrin sneered, LV Hushan, if Yuan Weiqing is lying, I naturally won't believe him. What are you afraid of? LV Hushan hurriedly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, Yuan Weiqing wants to frame me, so he will definitely say something unfavorable to me. You must not let him say it. When Zhang Chunran saw that LV Hushan was so nervous, he couldn't help but have some doubts in his heart. He turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said in a deep voice, Yuan Weiqing, do you really know the reason? Yuan Weiqing nodded. Of course, he told me himself. I naturally know the reason. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's reply, Zhang Chunran turned to look at LV Hushan and asked coldly, LV Hushan, is what Yuan Weiqing said true? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. No, I was lying to him. How could it be true? Zhang Chunran gritted his teeth, turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, I tell you, if you dare to lie, don't blame me for being rude to you. Do you understand? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded and said with a sneer, Vice Hall Master Zhang. He told me this himself. Otherwise, how could I know such a secret? Hearing the word secret, Zhang Chunran's heart moved and he said slowly, In this case, Yuan Weiqing, tell me. What did LV Hushan tell you? Hearing that Zhang Chunran allowed him to speak, Yuan Weiqing smiled and nodded. He turned his head to look at LV Hushan and said loudly, Vice Hall, Master Zhang. LV Hushan went to the back of the mountain to get the spirit stones. The reason why he was able to get the spirit stones back without suffering any injuries was that someone helped him. Therefore, he was able to complete the test without suffering any injuries. The person who helped him was, before Yuan Weiqing finished his words, he was interrupted by LV Hushan. Yuan Weiqing, I don't allow you to speak anymore. Stop. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered and turned his head to look at Zhang Chunran. He asked with a smile, Vice Hall Master Zhang, LV Hushan doesn't allow me to speak. Should I speak? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunran turned his head and glared at LV Hushan fiercely. Then he said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, just go on. Ignore him. If he dares to interrupt you again, I will teach him a lesson. Yuan Weiqing nodded with a sneer. Vice Hall Master Zhang. The reason why LV Hushan was able to get the spirit stones back of the mountain without suffering any injuries was that Hall Master Shui helped him get the spirit stones back. As soon as Yuan Weiqing finished speaking, a cold light flashed in Zhang Chunran's eyes. He turned his head to look at LV Hushan and asked with a sneer, LV Hushan, I didn't expect your relationship with Hall Master Shui to be so good. In order for you to successfully become the protector of the Tanlei sect in the South County, he was willing to get the spirit stones for you. It seems that Hall Master Shui already treats you as one of his own, right? Hearing these words, LV Hushan was shocked. He hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, no, I can become the protector of the Tanlei sect in the South County because of my own efforts. I definitely didn't rely on Hall Master Shui's help. Vice Hall Master Zhang, I have nothing to do with Hall Master Shui. Believe me, Yuan Weiqing is lying to you. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, you said that I'm lying to you. Then let me ask you, did you tell me these words? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. No, I'm lying to you. This is all fake. I only said this to make you believe me. Speaking of this, LV Hushan hurriedly turned his head to look at Zhang Chunran and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, what Yuan Weiqing said is all fake. I said this to lie to him. Please believe me, this is not true. Zhang Chunran sneered. LV Hushan, since it's not true, then tell me, how did you get the spirit stones back without suffering any injuries? Hearing this, LV Hushan was stunned and said in a trembling voice, Vice Hall Master Zhang, it's true. I didn't lie to you. I was really lucky. When I went to the back mountain, I didn't see the snow leopard, so I was able to get the spirit stones back without suffering any injuries. Vice Hall Master Zhang, what I said is true. Yes, I won't lie to you. Please believe me. As soon as LV Hushan's voice fell, Yuan Weiqing sneered and asked loudly, LV Hushan, you can lie to others, but do you think you can lie to us? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to speak, he continued. LV Hushan, we all know that no one can easily take anything out of the snow leopard's territory. No one can, unless your martial arts are much higher than the snow leopards, so you can easily take things out. Otherwise, it's absolutely impossible. LV Hushan, I think you should tell the truth. I believe that Vice Hall Master Zhang is a magnanimous person. As long as you tell the truth honestly, he will not blame you. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan gritted his teeth and shouted, Yuan Weiqing, I lied to you. How do you want me to admit it? Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, why are you still so stubborn? Do you want us to believe that your martial arts are much higher than the snow leopards? LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, please believe me. Although my martial arts are not as good as the snow leopards, I was lucky. When I went to the back mountain, I really didn't see the snow leopard, so I was able to get the spirit stones back without suffering any injuries. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, do you think we'll believe your words? As soon as Yuan Weiqing's voice fell, before LV Hushan could speak, Zhang Chunren sneered. LV Hushan, Yuan Weiqing is right. Unless your martial arts are much higher than the snow leopards, it is absolutely impossible for you to get the spirit stones back without suffering any injuries. At this point, Zhang Chunren's tone paused, but immediately after, without waiting for LV Hushan to speak, he continued to speak. LV Hushan, I know your martial arts. If you say that your martial arts are higher than the snow leopards, I don't need to say it. Do you believe it yourself? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan sighed helplessly and said slowly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, what I said is true. Why don't you believe me? When I went to the back mountain, I also had the idea of fighting with the snow leopard, but I really didn't see it. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. That's impossible. That snow leopard had always been on the back mountain and did not allow anyone to hurt it. How could it be so coincidental that it left when you went? Moreover, after you, there were people who took this test, and all of them met the snow leopard. Some of them succeeded, and some of them failed. But no matter whether they succeeded or failed, they would have suffered some injuries. Moreover, one of them died in front of the snow leopard because of this test. LV Hushan, am I right? LV Hushan nodded and said with a bitter smile, That's right. That's indeed the case. After me, there were indeed people who went to the back mountain and saw the snow leopard. Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, if that's the case, then let me ask you. Everyone else saw the snow leopard, but why didn't you see it? At this point, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused, but immediately after, without waiting for LV Hushan to speak, he continued to speak. LV Hushan, could it be that you know the snow leopard? Ha! At the end of his sentence, Yuan Weiqing could not help but laugh out loud. Looking at Yuan Weiqing, who was laughing at the sky, LV Hushan was instantly enraged. He said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, what's so funny about this? I didn't see the snow leopard. It's not my fault. What can I do? Yuan Weiqing shook his head and sneered. LV Hushan, let me tell you, there's only one reason why you didn't see the snow leopard. That is because Hall Master Shui helped you. That is why you could do this so easily. LV Hushan was so angry that the veins on his forehead were popping out. Yuan Weiqing, don't talk nonsense. Everything you said is fake. No one will believe you. At this point, LV Hushan hurriedly turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, please believe me. I'm really not lying to you. Everything I said is true. I'm not lying at all. Hearing LV Hushan's reply, Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, you're right. Everything you said is true because everything you said is a lie. You're talking nonsense. LV Hushan gritted his teeth and glared at Yuan Weiqing. He said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, I'm lying to you. It's your business whether you want to believe it or not. I don't care. I hope you don't say anything else so that Vice Hall Master Zhang won't misunderstand me. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren sighed and said slowly, LV Hushan, if you don't want me to misunderstand you, you should take out actual evidence. But since you don't, I can only misunderstand you. Yuan Weiqing also sneered and said, That's right, LV Hushan. If you want us to believe that your words are true, then you should take out evidence to prove that what I said is false. At this point, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to speak, he snorted and continued. LV Hushan, if you can't take out evidence to prove that what I said is false, then it's true. The reason why you can become the protector of the Tanlei sect in the South County is all because of Hall Master Shue's help. The reason why you're unwilling to make a move now is that you're still grateful to Hall Master Shue. You hope that he can escape quickly and not be killed by us, right? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, cold sweat broke out on LV Hushan's forehead. He hurriedly waved his hand and shouted, Yuan Weiqing, don't talk nonsense. How can this be? I can become the protector of the Tanlei sect in the South County because of my own hard work. What does it have to do with Hall Master Shue? This is all your lies. Yuan Weiqing sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, I think you should admit it. If it's not true, with your martial arts, you're not even as good as me. How could you get the spirit stones from the snow leopard's territory? LV Hushan said loudly. Yuan Weiqing, I've already said that I was lucky. I didn't see the snow leopard, so I could get the spirit stones smoothly. Yuan Weiqing shook his head and sighed. LV Hushan, why are you still unwilling to admit it? Now that the evidence is conclusive, do you think that even if you deny it, we can believe it? Zhang Chunren nodded. LV Hushan, Yuan Weiqing is right. Evidence. You have to take out evidence to prove that what he said is false. Or you have to take out evidence to prove that you can beat the snow leopard. Only in this way can I believe you. Do you understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly nodded and said with a sneer, LV Hushan, take it out. Quickly take out your evidence and let us see it so that we can believe you. After hearing their words, LV Hushan shook his head with a wry smile. I don't have evidence. You also know that when taking this test, you can't have companions. You can only go to the back of the mountain to get a spirit stone. How can I have evidence? Yuan Weiqing sneered and said, LV Hushan, you can also tell us why you didn't see the snow leopard. If you can tell us the reason, maybe Vice Hall Master Zhang will believe you. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren nodded. Then tell us. Chapter 792. After hearing their words, LV Hushan shook his head with a wry smile. You want me to show evidence, but even if I say it alone, you won't believe me. Zhang Chunren frowned. LV Hushan, as long as what you say is true, why wouldn't we believe you? LV Hushan sighed. Vice Hall Master Zhang, even if what I said is true, you won't believe me. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, you still dare to lie to us. Do you think Vice Hall Master Zhang is easy to fool? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, what I said is true. I beg you, please stop talking about it, okay? Yuan Weiqing shook his head with a smile. LV Hushan, it's fine if you don't want me to say it, but you have to show evidence to prove that what you said is true. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused and sneered. Then he slowly said, LV Hushan, just admit it. You don't do anything to Hall Master Shue. As long as you say it directly, maybe Vice Hall Master Zhang will forgive you this time. Don't you think so? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan gritted his teeth and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, how is this possible? What you said is not true. How can I admit it? Zhang Chunren frowned. LV Hushan, I just want to know now. When you went to the back mountain, how did you get the spirit stone without getting hurt? LV Hushan shook his head with a wry smile. If I saw Master Zhang, I don't know. When I went, I really didn't see the snow leopard, so I came back. I didn't lie to you. It's all true. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren sneered. LV Hushan, don't you feel strange when you say this? Speaking of this, Zhang Chunren paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question. LV Hushan, when everyone went to the back of the mountain, they all saw a snow leopard. Those with high martial arts skills could return safely, while those with low martial arts skills would die. Even if they were lucky, they would be seriously injured. Among so many people, there was no exception. They all saw the snow leopards, but why was it that you were the only one who said that there were no snow leopards in the back mountain? LV Hushan, do you think I will believe you when you say that there are no snow leopards in the back mountain? After hearing Zhang Chunren's words, LV Hushan sighed. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, what I said is true. I didn't lie to you. When I went to the back mountain, I really didn't see any snow leopards. At that time, I was wondering why I didn't see any snow leopards. Zhang Chunren shook his head. LV Hushan, that's impossible. That snow leopard has been at the back of the mountain for many years. It would never leave, let alone fall sick. I don't believe any of what you said. Yuan Weiqing sneered at LV Hushan. LV Hushan, I think you'd better tell the truth. It was Hall Master Shui who helped you, right? LV Hushan shook his head weakly. No, I was lying to you. It's not true. Hall Master Shui didn't help me. All of this was achieved by my own efforts. I didn't rely on anyone else's help. Speaking of this, LV Hushan suddenly raised his head and looked at Zhang Chunren. He said loudly, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I didn't lie to you. What I said is true. The reason why I said this to Yuan Weiqing was that I wanted to trick him and make him do it. But who would have thought that things would turn out like this? If I had known, I wouldn't have said those words. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, please believe me. What I said is true. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren sighed and slowly said, LV Hushan, if you want me to forgive you, then tell me the truth. When you went to the back of the mountain, why weren't you injured? Yuan Weiqing also said loudly, LV Hushan, Deputy Hall Master Zhang is right. With your martial arts, it's absolutely impossible for you to be the snow leopard's opponent. But you didn't suffer any injuries and easily took back the spirit stones. This point is really strange. LV Hushan sighed. What I said just now is true. When I went to the back of the mountain, I really didn't see the snow leopard. If I had seen it, I would have been seriously injured by it. But I didn't see the snow leopard. In fact, for so many years, I've been wondering why. Why is it that everyone else saw the snow leopard, but I couldn't? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, do you think that Deputy Hall Master Zhang will believe such perfunctory words? LV Hushan, I think it's better if you just tell the truth quickly. Do you want me to force you to tell the truth? Hearing these words, LV Hushan's eyes immediately widened. He fiercely stared at Yuan Weiqing and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, you dare? Yuan Weiqing nodded and sneered. LV Hushan, have you forgotten how you treated me just now? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed. He remembered that when Yuan Weiqing's injury was more serious, he had bullied him. Thinking of this, LV Hushan subconsciously took a step back. This was because he knew that his injury was on his right arm, which was the arm that he often used. On the other hand, Yuan Weiqing's injury was on his left arm, which he rarely used. In this case, Yuan Weiqing could definitely easily defeat LV Hushan. It was precisely because he understood this truth that LV Hushan suddenly realized that now was not the same as before. The one who was bullied should be him. Thinking of this, LV Hushan said in a trembling voice, Yuan Weiqing, what I said is true. Why don't you believe me? Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, what you said now is true. Do you mean that what you said to me just now is false? Hearing these words, cold sweat suddenly appeared on LV Hushan's forehead. He hurriedly waved his hand. No, Yuan Weiqing frowned. LV Hushan, what you said is somewhat wrong. What you said to me just now is true. What you said now is also true. Then let me ask you, if what you said is true both times, isn't it contradictory? LV Hushan wiped the sweat that was about to flow out his eyes and said in a trembling voice, Yuan Weiqing, let's not talk about what happened just now. I can guarantee that what I said now is true. I'm definitely not lying to you. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, you lie too much. I don't dare to believe you anymore. Now, only if you show me evidence to prove that what you said is true, then I will believe you. Otherwise, Deputy Hall Master Zhang and I will never believe you. Zhang Chunra nodded and asked coldly, LV Hushan, I'm also very curious. In the back mountain, everyone else could see the snow leopard except you. How did you do it? Hearing this question, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I don't know. After I went to the back mountain, I really didn't see the snow leopard. As for the reason, I really don't know. Zhang Chunren shook his head. LV Hushan, it's impossible. There must be a reason. Is it that you don't want to tell us? LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. No, I really don't know. If I knew, I would definitely tell you. Yuan Weiqing suddenly said, LV Hushan, I think it's not that you don't know, but that you don't want to say it. You don't want to admit that Home Master Shui helped you, right? Hearing this, LV Hushan was a little annoyed and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, I've already said that these things have nothing to do with Home Master Shui. He didn't help me. When I went to the back mountain, I really didn't see the snow leopard. That's why I was able to get the spirit stones back smoothly. Why don't you believe me? Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, if it were you, would you believe it? Hearing this, LV Hushan suddenly froze. Yuan Weiqing was right. If it were him, would he believe it? The answer was no. Zhang Chunren looked coldly at LV Hushan and asked loudly, LV Hushan, tell me, did Home Master Shui help you get the spirit stones back smoothly? At this point, Zhang Chunren's tone paused for a moment, but then he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. LV Hushan, don't worry. Even if Home Master Shui helped you, as long as you work for me, I will definitely forgive you. Just say it, understand? After hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan shook his head. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, please believe me. It really wasn't Hall Master Shui who helped me. The truth of the matter is, as I said, when I went to the back mountain, I really didn't see the snow leopard. That's why I wasn't hurt at all. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, now that things have come to this, I advise you to quickly admit it. If you don't admit it, don't blame me for being rude. After saying this, Yuan Weiqing waved his fist and said slowly, LV Hushan, you are definitely not my opponent now. If you don't say it, then don't blame me for not taking into account our relationship as fellow disciples. Looking at Yuan Weiqing waving his fist, LV Hushan knew that Yuan Weiqing wanted him to keep quiet so that he could take revenge. Understanding this, Yuan Weiqing only felt a chill rising from the bottom of his heart. He subconsciously took a step back and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, don't come over. What I said is true. I'm really not lying to you. At this point, LV Hushan turned his head to look at Zhang Chunren and sighed. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, to be honest, I don't understand why everyone else could see the snow leopard, but I didn't. Seeing that LV Hushan was still unwilling to tell the truth, a cold light flashed in Zhang Chunren's eyes. He turned his head slightly and gave Yuan Weiqing a look. Seeing Zhang Chunren's look, Yuan Weiqing immediately understood. Without saying anything, he took a step forward and waved his remaining arm towards LV Hushan. LV Hushan had been on guard against Yuan Weiqing. When he saw Yuan Weiqing attacking him, he hurriedly raised his hand to block. In a hurry, LV Hushan subconsciously raised his right arm. How could he block Yuan Weiqing's attack? Yuan Weiqing's punch directly hit his body. He screamed in pain and took 4 or 5 steps back before falling to the ground. Yuan Weiqing slowly came in front of LV Hushan and looked down at him. He sneered and asked, LV Hushan, how does it feel? To tell you the truth, I didn't use my full strength just now. If you dare to not tell the truth, my next punch will make you suffer. LV Hushan, who fell to the ground, was hit hard by Yuan Weiqing's punch. Coupled with the pain in his arm, he was sweating profusely. Even his face had turned pale. LV Hushan wailed in pain and gasped for breath. After a while, he said in a trembling voice, Yuan Weiqing, you really hit me. Have you forgotten that we were once good brothers? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing couldn't bear it in his heart. However, when he thought of LV Hushan hitting him just now, this trace of pity immediately disappeared. LV Hushan, now you know that we are good brothers. Have you forgotten how you treated me just now? LV Hushan gritted his teeth and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, I just wanted to scare you just now. I didn't want to hurt you. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, I've already said it. Seeing that we used to be good brothers, I've already shown mercy. You also know my martial arts. If I were to go all out against you, I'm afraid that your injuries would be much more serious than now, right? Hearing these words, LV Hushan gritted his teeth. Although he knew that Yuan Weiqing was telling the truth, the resentment in his heart could not be eliminated. Yuan Weiqing, you still remember that we were once good brothers. You hit me like this. Is this how you treat a good brother? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, who told you not to tell the truth? If you told the truth, we would still be good brothers. How could I hit you? Don't you think so? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for LV Hushan to answer his words and continued to speak. LV Hushan, if you are smart, tell the truth now. We will still be good brothers in the future. What do you think? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, what I said just now was the truth. If you don't believe me, what can I do? Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, what is your so-called truth? Tell me, are you telling me the truth, or are you telling the truth to Vice Hall Master Zhang? Hearing this question, LV Hushan was suddenly stunned. He stared blankly at Yuan Weiqing. For a moment, he was speechless. If what he said to Yuan Weiqing was a lie, then didn't it mean that he had lied to Yuan Weiqing just now? Seeing that LV Hushan did not answer his question, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered and said slowly, LV Hushan, in fact, even if you don't say it, I know. Do you want to say that you were lying to me just now and that you were telling the truth now? Chapter 793. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was a little embarrassed and hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, I didn't mean it. Don't blame me. Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, then can you tell me why you lied to me? LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, don't ask. I don't have any bad intentions. Don't blame me. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, but I think what you said is true. Because, other than this explanation, it's impossible for you to get the spirit stones back without getting hurt in front of the snow leopard. LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. No, it's not like that. Yuan Weiqing, I've already explained. When I went to the back mountain, I didn't see the snow leopard, so I was able to get the spirit stones back without getting hurt. It has nothing to do with Hall Master Shui. Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, do you mean that the snow leopard on the road knows you? LV Hushan shook his head. It's my first time going to the back mountain. How could the snow leopard know me? Yuan Weiqing shook his head. Since the snow leopard doesn't know you, why would it let you go so easily? Who would believe such words? Hearing this, LV Hushan hurriedly said loudly, but it's all true. I didn't lie to you. Yuan Weiqing sighed and said coldly, LV Hushan, it seems that my punch just now wasn't hard enough. After saying this, Yuan Weiqing raised his fist again and waved it in front of LV Hushan. He sneered and said, LV Hushan, I'll ask you again, are you telling the truth or not? If you don't, my punch this time won't be as light as last time. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was suddenly shocked. He hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, I really didn't lie to you. What I said is true. I didn't see the snow leopard, so I wasn't hurt. Hearing that LV Hushan still refused to admit, Yuan Weiqing couldn't help but sigh. LV Hushan, since you said so, then I can only say sorry. Yuan Weiqing's voice just fell, and he suddenly kicked LV Hushan's body. Ah! LV Hushan suddenly screamed and was kicked out. He flew 3 or 4 meters away before he fell to the ground. He was in so much pain that he couldn't scream. Yuan Weiqing slowly came to LV Hushan and asked him, LV Hushan, how do you feel this time? LV Hushan gasped for breath on the ground for a while before he barely managed to sit up. His face had already turned pale, and his voice was trembling. Yuan Weiqing, what are you doing? I'm telling the truth. Why don't you believe me? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing, Hushan, I didn't kick you. I didn't kick you hard enough. Why? SSSS. TSSSSS. Think he helped me. I think. I Hushan. I think. T-test. T-s's. Vice Master Zhang. Please believe me. I'm not lying. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren frowned and slowly came to the front of LV Hushan and asked, LV Hushan, since you're not lying, then tell me, is there any good way for you, with your martial arts, to get the spirit stones from the back of the mountain without suffering any injuries? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. I don't know. When I went to the back of the mountain, I didn't see the snow leopard. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing sneered and said, LV Hushan, it seems that you still don't dare to admit it. Do you want me to beat you harder? LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, don't come over. I've already told you the truth. Why don't you believe me? Zhang Chunren sighed. LV Hushan, if you're telling the truth, then you should have evidence. About Mai's matter, you only said that you were telling the truth, but did not show any evidence. How do you expect us to believe you? Yuan Weiqing sneered and said, LV Hushan, Vice Master Zhang is right. If you have evidence, we naturally won't doubt you. But you don't have evidence, which proves that you're lying to us. LV Hushan broke out in a cold sweat and defended himself loudly. But I didn't. Why would I lie to you? Think about it. Before I became the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South County, I didn't have a good relationship with Master Shui. Why would he help me? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. Before he could say anything, Yuan Weiqing sneered, LV Hushan, maybe you took the initiative to side with Master Shui at that time. Master Shui helped you in order to nurture his own forces. LV Hushan, I think you don't have to explain anymore. This must be the reason. Otherwise, why would Master Shui help you? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. He turned his head to look at LV Hushan and asked coldly, LV Hushan, is what Yuan Weiqing said true? Master Shui helped you because he wanted to rope you in? Hearing Zhang Chunren's question, LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand and said with a wry smile, Vice Master Zhang, you know that my martial arts are not very strong. Even if Master Shui wants to win over some people, he should win over some people with stronger martial arts. For example, Yuan Weiqing's martial arts are better than mine. If Master Shui wants to win over some of his own people, he must win over Yuan Weiqing. How could it be me? Vice Master Zhang, what I said is true. I'm definitely not lying. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Zhang Chunren was stunned for a moment. He involuntarily turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked doubtfully, Yuan Weiqing, is what LV Hushan said true? Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Master Zhang, this is all nonsense from LV Hushan. How could this be true? When I was the protector of the Tamlay sect in the South County, Vice Master Zhang, you should know very well what happened. How could this be true? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, Zhang Chunren nodded, but he had some doubts in his heart. This was because he remembered very clearly that when Yuan Weiqing was chosen to be the protector of the Tamlay sect in the South County, he firmly disagreed. However, Master Shui thought that Yuan Weiqing could be the protector. In the end, after several efforts, Yuan Weiqing successfully became the protector of the Tamlay sect in the South County. Among them, he was the one who objected, but Master Shui did agree. In other words, without Master Shui, Yuan Weiqing would never be the protector of the Tanlei sect in the South County. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunren recalled LV Hushan's words and became even more suspicious. Looking at Zhang Chunren's suspicious gaze, LV Hushan was immediately overjoyed. He did not expect that Zhang Chunren would really believe him. Thinking of this, LV Hushan hurriedly said loudly, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, in my opinion, Yuan Weiqing is very suspicious. You saw it just now. No matter how he asked him to make a move, he refused to make a move on Hall Master Shui. Even if he wanted to betray you and hide behind Etianhua, he didn't want to make a move on Hall Master Shui. In my opinion, he's Hall Master Shui's man. He's talking about me now because he doesn't want to make a move." Speaking of this, LV Hushan turned his head to look at Yuan Weiqing and sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, I'm right. Back then, if it weren't for Hall Master Shui's help, how could you have become a protector?" LV Hushan turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said loudly, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, I'm right. Just now, Yuan Weiqing also told me that when Hall Master Shui asked him to be the protector, you opposed it, right?" After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren hesitated for a moment before slowly nodding. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked coldly, "Yuan Weiqing, do you still remember this matter? Is that why you refused to make a move on Hall Master Shui?" After hearing Zhang Chunren's question, Yuan Weiqing immediately knew that LV Hushan had led this matter to him again. He hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't listen to LV Hushan's nonsense. He wants to change the target. Did you forget that he just said that he could safely get the spirit stones back without any harm? If it weren't for Hall Master Shui's help, who would believe it?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned again. He turned to look at LV Hushan and asked coldly, "LV Hushan, by the way, you haven't made this matter clear yet. Show me the evidence now. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Do you understand?" Seeing that his plan had succeeded, Yuan Weiqing was immediately overjoyed. He hurriedly turned to look at LV Hushan and said loudly without waiting for LV Hushan's answer, "LV Hushan, I advise you to admit it honestly. Even if you want to quibble about some things, do you think Vice Hall Master Zhang is so gullible that he will believe your lies?" Seeing that his plan was about to succeed, LV Hushan didn't expect that Yuan Weiqing would take it back. He anxiously said loudly, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, this matter has nothing to do with me. If I knew the reason, I would have said it long ago. Why would I wait until now?" Yuan Weiqing shook his head and sneered, "LV Hushan, if you don't say it now, don't blame me for being rude." LV Hushan was taken aback and hurriedly waved his hand, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, what I said is true." Hearing that LV Hushan was still quibbling, Yuan Weiqing didn't wait for him to finish his words and kicked him away fiercely. This time, Yuan Weiqing used more strength than last time. LV Hushan was in so much pain that his vision turned black. He screamed and fell to the ground. When he fell, his throat itched and he spat out a mouthful of blood, probably because of his injuries. Cough, cough. LV Hushan coughed violently and couldn't even say a word. Yuan Weiqing walked quickly to him and asked loudly, "LV Hushan, are you going to tell the truth or not? If you don't, the next time will be worse than this time. Do you want to have a taste?" Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan wanted to say something, but his coughing was too severe. He could only feel anger in his heart, but he couldn't say a word. Zhang Chunren sighed and said slowly, "LV Hushan, I've already said that I just want to know the truth. Even if this matter has something to do with Hall Master Shui, I won't blame you. After all, it's all in the past. As long as you're loyal to me now, I can let bygones be bygones. Are you still unwilling to admit it?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly said loudly, "LV Hushan, did you hear that? Vice Hall Master Zhang has already said that he won't blame you. If you continue to lie here, I'm afraid that the next time I hit you, it will be worse than this time." Hearing Yuan Weiqing's cold words, LV Hushan only felt a chill in his heart, which spread to his whole body in an instant. He couldn't help but shiver. LV Hushan looked up at Yuan Weiqing and said in a trembling voice, Yuan Weiqing, I've already said that I really didn't lie to you. What I said is true. When I went to the back mountain, I really didn't see the snow leopard. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing frowned and said coldly, LV Hushan, don't tell me that you still don't know how to repent and continue to lie. LV Hushan shook his head. I didn't lie. What I said is true. Why don't you believe me? Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, I've already kicked you twice. Just now, I only hurt you a little. I didn't use my full strength. If you don't speak, I'm afraid that you won't be so lucky next time. Do you understand? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was shocked. He naturally knew that what Yuan Weiqing said was true. If Yuan Weiqing really used his full strength just now, he would definitely be seriously injured. Thinking of this, LV Hushan only felt a burst of fear. He suddenly said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, since we are all from the same sect, please believe me this time. I really didn't lie. What I said is true. Yuan Weiqing sighed and slowly said, LV Hushan, it's not that I don't believe you. This kind of thing, if you were me, would you believe it? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was stunned. This kind of thing, even if it was him, he would also doubt it. Yuan Weiqing sneered and said, LV Hushan, what do you want me to say to you? You are obviously lying to us, but you always want us to believe your lies. You tell me, what should I do with you? LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, whether you believe it or not, but what I said is true. I didn't lie to you. Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing suddenly let out a sigh. LV Hushan, why are you so stubborn? Even if you admit it, Deputy Hall Leader Zhang has already said that we should let bygones be bygones. So what? LV Hushan, as long as you admit it, Deputy Hall Master Zhang will figure out the problem in this issue. As long as you listen to him in the future, nothing will happen. Don't you understand? After listening to Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sighed, but I didn't lie. Chapter 794. LV Hushan continued. Yuan Weiqing, what I said is true. I didn't lie to you. When I went to the back of the mountain, I didn't see the snow leopard. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing immediately sneered. LV Hushan, do you want to taste my fist? Yuan Weiqing's words startled LV Hushan. He hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, I didn't lie to you. What I said is true. I really didn't see anything. Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Zhang Chunrin and sighed. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, LV Hushan still refuses to tell the truth. I think we can no longer be polite to him. Zhang Chunrin nodded and stared at LV Hushan. He sneered and asked, LV Hushan, I'll give you one more chance. Are you going to tell the truth or not? LV Hushan was scared and waved his hand. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, what I said is true. I don't dare to lie to you. Before LV Hushan could finish his words, Yuan Weiqing immediately kicked him far away. This time, Yuan Weiqing used more strength than last time. LV Hushan kept screaming in the air until he flew 7 or 8 meters away. He fell to the ground and didn't make any sound. Seeing LV Hushan stop moving, Yuan Weiqing was shocked. He hurriedly walked forward and checked carefully. Only then did he feel relieved. LV Hushan just fainted. There was nothing serious. Yuan Weiqing went forward and kicked LV Hushan for a while. LV Hushan slowly woke up. As soon as LV Hushan woke up, he felt extreme pain all over his body. He couldn't help but scream. However, his scream made his body hurt even more. Yuan Weiqing sighed and said slowly, LV Hushan, why do you have to do this? I don't want to fight with you, but you don't want to tell the truth. I can't do anything about it. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused and said slowly, LV Hushan, I don't think you should suffer. Hurry up and tell us. We're still good friends. Isn't that good? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan cursed in his heart. Who is your good friend? You are so ruthless to me. Do you really think of me as a good friend? However, although LV Hushan thought so in his heart, he did not dare to say it out loud. This was because he was now seriously injured, and Yuan Weiqing could easily get rid of him. Moreover, Vice Hall Master Zhang, who was even more powerful, was standing beside Yuan Weiqing. Thinking of this, LV Hushan secretly gritted his teeth and forced a smile. Yuan Weiqing, we have always been good friends. Among all the protectors of the secret Thunder sect in the South County, our relationship is the best, don't you think so? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing smiled and nodded. LV Hushan, it's precisely because of this reason that I don't want to make a move on you. You'd better hurry up and say it so as not to ruin the relationship between us brothers. LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, what I said is true. I will never lie to you. Think about it. Why would I lie to my brother? Don't you think so? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered in his heart. He did not forget that when he was seriously injured just now, LV Hushan had bullied him a lot. LV Hushan, I don't understand. Since you have already done it, why don't you admit it? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused and then slowly said, What's more, even if you don't admit it, do you think we will let you go? So, don't be stubborn. Hurry up and say it. It's okay. LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, what I said is true. Why don't you believe me? Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, if you were me, would you believe those words? Hearing these words, LV Hushan was stunned. After a while, he forced a smile and nodded. Of course, since we are good brothers, why don't you believe your brother's words? Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, I treat you as a good brother, but you lied to me. Then, tell me, should I still treat you as a good brother? LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, since we are good brothers, you should believe me. If you don't believe me, don't you treat me as a good brother? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing finally became impatient. He sneered. LV Hushan, do you think that because you are my brother, I don't dare to do anything to you? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was suddenly shocked. He hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, since we are good friends, you can't do anything to me. Slap. Before LV Hushan could finish his words, he was slapped in the face by the impatient Yuan Weiqing, causing him to scream in pain. LV Hushan covered his face and looked at Yuan Weiqing in disbelief. After a while, he suddenly shouted, Yuan Weiqing, you dare to hit me. You dare to hit my face. I'm not done with you. Before LV Hushan finished speaking, he was slapped by Yuan Weiqing again. Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, you think I don't dare? Let me try to show you whether I dare or not. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words, he continued to speak. LV Hushan, I advise you to tell the truth quickly. Otherwise, will you feel happy? LV Hushan was so angry that his eyes were about to burst, but he really didn't dare to say anything. He couldn't beat Yuan Weiqing now. If he continued to speak, he was afraid that it would cause more trouble. Yuan Weiqing, I have already said that what I said is true. But if you don't believe me, what can I do? Yuan Weiqing sneered a few times. Suddenly, he kicked LV Hushan again. LV Hushan screamed and fell to the ground. This time, Yuan Weiqing used less strength, so he didn't faint. Yuan Weiqing walked forward slowly and said in a cold voice, LV Hushan, I advise you to admit it. Otherwise, he really can't blame me for being impolite. I was merciful just now. If you still don't treat me as a friend, then I can only not treat you as a friend. LV Hushan gritted his teeth. Although he wanted to admit it, he also knew that if he admitted it, he was afraid that things would become worse. What's more, he didn't lie about this matter. Back then, in order to complete this test, he also came to the back mountain alone with the idea of being seriously injured. But maybe he was lucky, or maybe it was because of other reasons. The chief physician didn't see the legendary snow leopard. Naturally, he could easily get the spirit stones. The reason why he said that to Yuan Weiqing just now was actually very simple. That was to let Yuan Weiqing know that he had received more kindness from Hall Master Shui, so he couldn't do anything. However, LV Hushan didn't expect that Yuan Weiqing still wouldn't be fooled. In the end, he didn't expect that his lies would evolve into this situation. LV Hushan was very regretful in his heart. He regretted saying such words just now. If he didn't say these words, wouldn't it be fine? Looking at LV Hushan, who lowered his head and didn't say anything, Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, if you still treat me as a friend, quickly admit it. You don't want to ruin our relationship, right? LV Hushan shook his head in pain. Yuan Weiqing, what I said is true. When I went to the back mountain, I didn't see the snow leopard. And what I said to you just now, I was lying to you. I hope you can forgive me and don't blame me. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, if your martial arts were very high and the snow leopard was far from being your opponent, then I would believe you. However, your martial arts are definitely no match for the snow leopard. Yet, you were able to get the spirit stones from the back of the mountain without suffering any injuries. Without Hall Master Shui's help, you definitely wouldn't have been able to do this. LV Hushan, in fact, the matter is very clear now. Even if you didn't say it, we all know. The reason why we want you to admit it now is to give you a chance. As long as you admit it, we can still be good friends. At this point, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words, he sneered and continued to speak. LV Hushan, if you still refuse to admit it and give up the chance we're giving you, then you really can't blame us for not being polite to you. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's cold words, LV Hushan sighed. Yuan Weiqing, I really regret it. Why did I lie to you just now? In the end, the answer came so quickly. I really regret it. If I knew earlier, why would I lie? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, you mean that you still refuse to admit it? LV Hushan shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, what I said is the truth. How do you want me to admit it? Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, since you refuse to admit it, then don't blame me for not being polite. After saying this, Yuan Weiqing lifted a foot and slowly stepped on LV Hushan's leg. LV Hushan, what do you think will happen if I step on it hard? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan's face suddenly changed. He hurriedly waved his hand and said in a trembling voice, Yuan Weiqing, don't. I didn't lie to you. What I said is true. Ah! Before LV Hushan could finish his words, he suddenly screamed and reached out to cover his leg. Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, why don't you say it? I really can't bear to do it. You're making it difficult for me. LV Hushan was in so much pain that he was sweating profusely. His voice trembled as he said, Yuan Weiqing, I beg you, don't step on me. What I said is true. Just believe me this time. I would never dare to lie to you. Yuan Weiqing frowned. LV Hushan, do you always lie to your good friend like this? LV Hushan shook his head. I don't. What I said is true. Yuan Weiqing used a little strength. LV Hushan, I advise you to say it. I didn't use much strength, and you screamed so miserably. If you know what's good for you, quickly admit it. It will save you trouble. LV Hushan gasped for breath. After a while, he clenched his teeth and said in a trembling voice, Yuan Weiqing, I beg you, please don't step on me. I admit it, okay? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing was suddenly overjoyed and asked with a smile, LV Hushan, then tell us, did Hall Master Shui help you to get the spirit stones in the back mountain? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, LV Hushan sighed and said with a crying voice, Yes, Hall Master Shui helped me. Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing nodded with satisfaction. He turned to look at Zhang Chunren and said with a smile, Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I am right. You see, LV Hushan admitted it. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. He turned to look at LV Hushan and asked coldly, LV Hushan, is what you said just now true? You went to the back mountain to get the spirit stones and didn't get hurt at all because of Hall Master Shui's help? LV Hushan turned to look at Zhang Chunren. He hesitated for a moment and suddenly shouted, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I didn't. It was Yuan Weiqing who forced me to say it. In fact, Yuan Weiqing is Hall Master Shui's man." Speaking of this, he paused and took a few deep breaths before continuing. Yuan Weiqing was afraid that his relationship with Hall Master Shui would be known by us. So, he asked me to admit it to get rid of his suspicion. Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you know that for so many years, I've always been your man. You can't be deceived by Yuan Weiqing. Hearing LV Hushan not only deny it, but also want to put the blame on him, Yuan Weiqing was furious and shouted, "LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. If you didn't have Hall Master Shui's help, you would never have been able to go to the back mountain. I didn't expect that you would still dare to quibble with the evidence. It seems that I was too gentle." After saying this, Yuan Weiqing was about to walk towards LV Hushan. When LV Hushan saw Yuan Weiqing coming over, he was so scared that he shouted, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, save me. Yuan Weiqing wants to kill me." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunrin sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, don't do it. Let me ask him what's going on." After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing naturally didn't dare to do it again. He could only shout angrily, "LV Hushan, if you dare to talk nonsense again, don't blame me for being rude." Looking at this guy who claimed to be a friend, LV Hushan knew that this guy was the most unreliable. If he listened to him, he might be harmed by him. Thinking of this, LV Hushan made up his mind. He gritted his teeth and said loudly, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, let me tell you, Yuan Weiqing has the best relationship with Hall Master Shui. He was able to become the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South County because of Hall Master Shui's help. Usually, Yuan Weiqing always says that Hall Master Shui is better than anyone else." Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused for a second before saying slowly, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, guess what Yuan Weiqing said to you in normal times?" Chapter 795. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunrin frowned and said coldly, "What did you say?" Hearing their words, Yuan Weiqing hurriedly shouted, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, you can't let LV Hushan do that. What he said is all fake." Zhang Chunrin glanced at Yuan Weiqing coldly. "Yuan Weiqing, since it's all fake, what are you afraid of?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was stunned. LV Hushan took the opportunity to speak loudly. "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I still remember very clearly that when you stopped him from being the protector of the secret Thunder sect in the South County, he was very angry and said several times that he wanted to teach you a lesson. He also said that if the secret Thunder sect in the South County didn't have Hall Master Shui, the secret Thunder sect in the South County would have been finished long ago. If you had left the secret Thunder sect in the South County earlier, the secret Thunder sect in the South County would have flourished long ago." Hearing LV Hushan's words, although Zhang Chunrin didn't say anything, Yuan Weiqing could clearly see the anger in his eyes. Yuan Weiqing cursed in his heart and hurriedly said loudly, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, this is all LV Hushan's nonsense. How could I say such things?" LV Hushan sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, I've always treated you as a friend, so I didn't say it out loud. However, I really don't dare to compliment your attitude towards your friends, so I can only say these words. I hope Deputy Hall Master Zhang won't be blinded by you." Nonsense? Yuan Weiqing was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. "LV Hushan, you thought of this yourself. I didn't say it." Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Zhang Chunrin and said loudly, "Deputy Hall Master Zhang, I won't say such things. Everyone in the secret Thunder sect in the South County knows that only you are the most capable person." LV Hushan sneered, "Yuan Weiqing, you said this now, but you didn't say this in the beginning. I remember very clearly that what I said just now was not a lie." Hearing this, Zhang Chunrin slowly turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and asked coldly, "Yuan Weiqing, is what LV Hushan said true?" Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, you must not listen to his nonsense." LV Hushan is trying to sow discord between us. You must not believe him." When LV Hushan heard this, he immediately looked up to the sky and laughed. "Yuan Weiqing, since you say that I'm lying, then do you dare to swear that you're telling the truth?" Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was stunned for a moment and did not answer immediately. Seeing this scene, Zhang Chunrin became even more annoyed. "Yuan Weiqing, is what LV Hushan said true?" Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. "Vice Master Zhang, this is all fake. LV Hushan is talking nonsense. None of it is true." Zhang Chunrin nodded and said with a sneer, "Yuan Weiqing, since what LV Hushan said is false, why don't you dare to swear?" After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and said loudly, "Well, since you don't believe me, then I swear." Seeing Yuan Weiqing swear again, LV Hushan shook his head and said with a sneer, "Yuan Weiqing, it's too late. Even if you swear, it's too late." At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. "Yuan Weiqing, if what I said just now is false, you would definitely swear immediately, but you hesitated. This is enough to show that you're afraid that the oath will come true, so you hesitated. Yuan Weiqing, the reason why you agreed to swear now is that you also know that if you don't swear, Vice Master Zhang will suspect you. I'm afraid that the situation will be worse, so you gritted your teeth and swore, right?" Yuan Weiqing wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, pointed at LV Hushan, and shouted sternly, "LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. No one will believe what you say." LV Hushan sneered, turned to look at Zhang Chunrin, and said loudly, "Vice Master Zhang, what I said is true. You should remember that when Home Master Shui asked Yuan Weiqing to be the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County, you didn't agree. Now that Yuan Weiqing knows about this, do you think he won't hold a grudge? Vice Master Zhang, what I said is true. There is absolutely no lie." After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunrin frowned. He naturally knew the cause and effect of this matter. Back then, when Home Master Shui wanted Yuan Weiqing to be the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County, he did not agree because he wanted to arrange for one of his own to be the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County. However, Home Master Shui was the boss of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County after all. His words were more effective than his words. Therefore, in the end, Yuan Weiqing became the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County. Most importantly, this matter was not a secret. Yuan Weiqing would definitely know about it. Yuan Weiqing had no reason not to hate someone who blocked his future. Therefore, what LV Hushan said was very likely to be true. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunrin turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and said with a cold smile, "Yuan Weiqing, LV Hushan is right. Back then, Hall Master Shui wanted you to be the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County, but I did not agree. You have a reason to hate me." After hearing Zhang Chunrin's words, Yuan Weiqing was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, "Vice Hall Master Zhang, how can I hate you for this matter? The reason why you didn't let me be the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County is because I'm not capable enough." At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment. However, he did not wait for Zhang Chunrin to answer him. He quickly thought about it in his heart and continued to speak. "Vice Hall Master Zhang, I know that you are a strict person. You want to choose a truly talented person to be the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County. We can't wait to support you on this point. How can we blame you?" After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan sneered. "Yuan Weiqing, do you believe what you said? I think you should stop denying it. If Hall Master Shui had listened to Vice Hall Master Zhang, how could you have become the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County? It would be strange if you didn't blame Vice Hall Master Zhang for this matter." Yuan Weiqing hurriedly waved his hand. "No, Vice Hall Master Zhang is doing this for the secret Thunder Sect in the South County. If he thinks someone is not qualified, they shouldn't be the protector of the secret Thunder Sect in the South County. Is there anything wrong with that?" At this point, Yuan Weiqing glared at LV Hushan and asked loudly, LV Hushan, could it be that you don't want Vice Hall Master Zhang to be so strict? LV Hushan did not expect Yuan Weiqing to talk about him again. He hurriedly waved his hand. How can I not want to? The reason why Vice Hall Master Zhang is strict is that he wants to make the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County stronger. As members of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County, how can we not support him? Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, but according to Vice Hall Master Zhang's standards, you don't seem to be the protector of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County. Hearing this, LV Hushan was stunned, but he quickly reacted and hurriedly said, even if I can't be the protector, so what? As long as I work hard to cultivate martial arts, Vice Hall Master Zhang will let me be the protector sooner or later. Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, since this is the case, then tell us what happened at the back of the mountain. Why is it that when others went to retrieve the spirit stones, they were more or less injured by the snow leopards, but only you, with such weak martial arts, were able to safely retrieve the spirit stones without any injuries? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunren's eyes narrowed, and he turned to look at LV Hushan. When LV Hushan saw Zhang Chunren's cold eyes, he was shocked and hurriedly said, Yuan Weiqing, you are disloyal to Vice Hall Master Zhang. Shouldn't you explain why you are speaking ill of Vice Hall Master Zhang behind his back? You can't wait to kick Vice Hall Master Zhang out of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County. Yuan Weiqing had just kicked the ball to LV Hushan. Before he could catch his breath, LV Hushan kicked the ball back. Yuan Weiqing gritted his teeth and said loudly, LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. It's all nonsense. You better tell us quickly how you got the spirit stones back without getting hurt. LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, I remember you said that if Vice Hall Master Zhang was kicked out of the Secret Thunder Sect in the South County, you would find someone to avenge him, right? Hearing this, Zhang Chunren's eyes turned cold. He turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and shouted sternly, Yuan Weiqing, you still want to find someone to take revenge on me? Is that true? Seeing that Zhang Chunren was angry, Yuan Weiqing waved his hand in fear and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, how is that possible? With my martial arts, how can I beat you? Don't listen to LV Hushan's nonsense. What he said is false. LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, do you mean that if you can beat Vice Hall Master Zhang, you will take revenge? Yuan Weiqing's face had turned a little pale. He waved his hand hard. LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. Even if I can beat Vice Hall Master Zhang, I will never take revenge. LV Hushan sighed. Vice Hall Master Zhang, we didn't know that your martial arts were so good before. We thought that you were only a little better than us. Yuan Weiqing once told me that as long as he found a few brothers to help him, he would definitely be able to defeat you. At that time, he would be able to take revenge. Hearing this, Zhang Chunren suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, it's rare for you to hate me so much. Why don't we end the grudge today? What do you think? Yuan Weiqing didn't know that Zhang Chunren's martial arts were so good before. Now that he knew, he didn't dare to talk nonsense. Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't listen to his nonsense. What he said is not true. Don't take it seriously. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused and took the opportunity to think of a countermeasure. Then he slowly said, Vice Hall Master Zhang, think about it. We are all from the Tamlay sect in the South County. How could we have any grudges? Don't you think so? Hearing this, LV Hushan said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, you told me this. Don't tell me that you don't remember. Yuan Weiqing turned his head to look at LV Hushan and shouted, LV Hushan, you're talking nonsense. Do you have any evidence to prove that I said this? LV Hushan sneered and nodded. Yuan Weiqing, of course I have evidence. When you said this, you didn't say it to me alone. As long as we find the person who heard this, don't you think it counts as evidence? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing was stunned again. For a moment, he didn't answer LV Hushan immediately. Instead, he thought carefully in his heart. When he said this, was there anyone else beside him? Yuan Weiqing did say these words, but he didn't say it when he was sober. He said it when he was drunk. Humans were like that. They dared to say anything that they normally wouldn't dare to say, but when they were drunk, they dared to say anything. Of course, some words might be forgotten after they were sober, and the matter would be over. However, Yuan Weiqing never expected that LV Hushan would remember a few words he said when he was drunk. Yuan Weiqing clearly remembered what LV Hushan said in the beginning. He seemed to have said it, but he definitely didn't say the latter part, because even if he was drunk, he would never have such thoughts. Zhang Chunrin was the Vice Hall Master Zhang of the Tanlei sect in the South County. If he wanted to take revenge on him, he didn't want to stay in the Tanlei sect in the South County anymore. Therefore, how could Yuan Weiqing have such a stupid idea? Thinking of this, Yuan Weiqing said loudly, LV Hushan, don't talk nonsense. I know that what you said is false. Even if there is a witness, they are your people. You guys are working together to lie. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan sighed and said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, why are you so stubborn? Now that things have come to this, I think you'd better admit it quickly. No matter what, you haven't done it yet. Although you're still in the plan, as long as you say it, I think Vice Hall Master Zhang will be magnanimous and forgive you. After hearing these familiar words, Yuan Weiqing was furious. LV Hushan, stop talking. You'd better explain your real relationship with Hall Master Shui quickly. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing turned to look at Zhang Chunrin and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, do you still remember who Hall Master Shui brought with him every time he went out? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, Zhang Chunrin was stunned for a moment. He thought for a moment and suddenly turned to look at LV Hushan. Yuan Weiqing sneered and said, that's right. Every time Hall Master Shui went out, he always brought LV Hushan with him. LV Hushan, can you tell me why this is happening? Hearing this question, LV Hushan was also stunned. Seeing that LV Hushan didn't answer, Zhang Chunrin shouted sternly, LV Hushan, answer quickly. Why must Hall Master Shui bring you with him every time he goes out? Yuan Weiqing sneered, Vice Hall Master Zhang, do you still need to ask? Of course, it's because they have a good relationship. Hall Master Shui has already taken LV Hushan as one of his own, so he will bring him with him every time he goes out. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan reacted and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, it's not what you think. The reason why Hall Master Shui brings me out is that he feels that my martial arts are too low. Chapter 796. LV Hushan continued, Hall Master Shui thinks that my martial arts skills are too low. He's afraid that it'll be too dangerous for me to handle matters, so he brought me along. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sneered, LV Hushan, why is he worried about you? Isn't it because you two have a good relationship? Is there any other reason besides this? At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question. LV Hushan, to be honest, Hall Master Shui has never brought me out alone for so many years. Speaking of which, I really envy you. When LV Hushan heard this, his face suddenly changed, and he said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, don't talk nonsense. Even if Hall Master Shui brought me out, it's definitely not what you think. Yuan Weiqing sighed, LV Hushan, if you have evidence, we naturally won't believe it. But what evidence do you have? You don't have it. Since you don't have it, how can we believe you? LV Hushan smiled bitterly and shook his head, but I have no relationship with Hall Master Shui. Don't you know that? Yuan Weiqing shook his head and suddenly exclaimed, LV Hushan, I suddenly remember. I remember that some time ago, Hall Master Shui seemed to have said that there were too many things in the gang and he wanted to find a deputy hall master. Could it be that the candidate for the deputy chief is you? At this point, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then he continued without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question. No wonder Hall Master Shui treats you so well. It turns out that he wants to promote you to be the deputy hall master. I really didn't expect that you actually have such a relationship. It seems that there are many things that we didn't expect. Hearing this, LV Hushan didn't even think about it. He waved his hand and defended himself loudly. Yuan Weiqing, this is impossible. My martial arts skills are so low. How could Hall Master Shui choose me to be the deputy Hall Master? Yuan Weiqing sneered and shook his head. LV Hushan, why don't you understand why Hall Master Shui treated you so well? I think he wants to train you and let you be the Vice Hall Master first. Who knows? Maybe even the position of Hall Master will be yours in the future. I really didn't expect this. Lu Hushan, it seems that I have to call you Hall Master Lu in the future. LV Hushan hurriedly waved his hand. Yuan Weiqing, you don't have any evidence. Don't talk nonsense. Otherwise, people will laugh at you. Yuan Weiqing sighed and slowly said, LV Hushan, what evidence do you need? Think about it. Your martial arts are the weakest among our protectors. To be honest with your martial arts, it is impossible for you to be a protector. However, Hall Master Shui ignored the objections of so many people and insisted on promoting you to be the protector of the Secret Thunder Sect in South County. Not only that, he was also afraid that you wouldn't be able to pass Shui Bao's test. He helped you because he wanted you to successfully become the protector. LV Hushan, you said that I don't have any evidence. Think about it. Even if you did something wrong during your time as a protector, did Hall Master Shui ever reprimand you? Think about it. If we did something wrong, wouldn't Hall Master Shui reprimand us? Think about it this way. Don't you understand Hall Master Shui's painstaking efforts? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was also stunned. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Hall Master Shui in the distance and muttered in his heart, could it be that Hall Master Shui really wanted to promote him to be the Deputy Hall Master? Was this true? If he could really become the Deputy Hall Master, wouldn't he be on the same level as Deputy Hall Master Zhang? LV Hushan was really excited when he thought that he had the chance to become the Hall Master. Moreover, Yuan Weiqing's words made sense. His martial arts were not very high. After becoming a protector, he did make a few mistakes. He thought that Hall Master Shui would be furious. However, Hall Master Shui only smiled gently, and the matter was over. Most importantly, once the other protectors of the Secret Thunder Sect in South County had made a mistake, Hall Master Shui would definitely be furious. Only he did not reprimand them. LV Hushan had always felt that he was too lucky because of this matter. He could escape Hall Master Shui's reprimand every time. At this moment, after hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, he carefully remembered that this was not a coincidence. Could it be that Hall Master Shui really valued him and wanted him to be the Hall Master of the Secret Thunder Sect in South County in the future? Seeing that LV Hushan did not speak, Yuan Weiqing sighed again and said slowly, LV Hushan, if not for today's matter, I believe that it won't be long before you become the protector of the Secret Thunder Sect in South County. Now that I think about it, I really feel pity for you. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan hurriedly shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, don't say anymore. What you said is all fake. No one will believe you. After hearing the words of the two, Zhang Chunrin suddenly frowned. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he looked coldly at LV Hushan. What Yuan Weiqing said was definitely not nonsense. Not long ago, Hall Master Shui did say that there were too many things in the gang. The two of them could not handle it alone, so he decided to add a new Vice Hall Master to help Zhang Chunrin manage the gang's affairs. Although Hall Master Shui said it very well, Zhang Chunrin was very clear about Hall Master Shui's true intentions. Originally, the Secret Thunder Sect in South County only had two Hall Masters. One was Shui Zhijing, and the other was him. Although Zhang Chunrin was only the Vice Hall Master, he still had a lot of power because there were only two Hall Masters. However, if another Vice Hall Master was added, then his power would definitely be at least half. Perhaps, in the end, all the power would belong to the new Vice Hall Master. Although Zhang Chunrin knew about this, he did not know who the new Vice Hall Master was. Although he had asked Shui Zhijing had never said anything. He only told him that when the Vice Hall Master took office, he would naturally know. Shui Zhijing also said that the new Vice Hall Master was selected from the disciples of the sect. He knew all of them, so there was no need to introduce them. Zhang Chunren thought of Shui Zhijing's words in his mind, and his heart suddenly moved. Could it be that what Yuan Weiqing said was true? Was the new Vice Hall Master really LV Hushan in front of him? If the truth of the matter was really like this, then there was a reasonable explanation for LV Hushan's refusal to make a move. Zhang Chunren even began to suspect that LV Hushan wanted to save Shui Zhijing. The more Zhang Chunren thought about it, the more likely this was because as long as Shui Zhijing was the Hall Master, LV Hushan would be able to sit firmly in the position of Vice Hall Master. Slowly, he would become the Hall Master of the secret Thunder Sect in South County. Thinking of this, Zhang Chunren turned to look at LV Hushan and asked loudly, LV Hushan, is what Yuan Weiqing said true? Is Shui Zhijing going to promote you to be the Vice Hall Master? Tell me. Hearing Zhang Chunren's accusation, LV Hushan was so scared that his whole body trembled. He said loudly, No. How could Shui Zhijing promote me to be the Vice Hall Master? This is all nonsense from Yuan Weiqing. Vice Hall Master Zhang, you must not believe it. At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Zhang Chunren to answer his question and continued to speak. Vice Hall Master Zhang, think about it. My martial arts is the lowest among all the protectors. Even if he wants to promote the Vice Hall Master, it will definitely not be me. Speaking of this, LV Hushan's eyes suddenly lit up. He pointed at Yuan Weiqing and said coldly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, it's him, it's Yuan Weiqing. I guess it must be him. Shui Zhijing must want to promote him to be the Vice Hall Master. He said it now to sow discord between us. Vice Hall Master Zhang, don't be fooled. After hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. He gritted his teeth and asked, LV Hushan, do you have evidence? If you talk nonsense, don't blame me for being rude, understand? LV Hushan hurriedly nodded and said loudly, Vice Hall Master Zhang, I'm not talking nonsense. Think about it. Although Yuan Weiqing's martial arts is not the highest among us protectors, he is deeply liked by Shui Zhijing. Every time we do something, as long as it is simple, Shui Zhijing will definitely send Yuan Weiqing to do it. On the contrary, those more complicated and difficult tasks will be done by us. Vice Hall Master Zhang, think about it. We are all guardians. Why does Yuan Weiqing have to do simple missions while we have to do complicated missions? I think this is evidence. It can completely prove that Yuan Weiqing and Shui Zhijing are definitely in cahoots. Hearing LV Hushan's words, Zhang Chunren frowned. When he was about to speak, Yuan Weiqing sneered and said, LV Hushan, you are talking nonsense. How do you know that the tasks assigned to me by Shui Zhijing are simple and your tasks are complicated? LV Hushan sneered. Of course I know. Don't forget that we are not the only protectors. Every time you are assigned a simple task, the other protectors have long been resentful. Don't you know? After hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing suddenly froze. He frowned and said slowly, LV Hushan, you are wrong. You think that the tasks I complete are simple, but in fact the tasks I do are the kind that look simple, but are actually very difficult to complete. For this matter, I am very unhappy in my heart. Since you said it today, then I will tell you. In fact, I would rather complete your seemingly complicated but simple tasks than my seemingly simple but complicated tasks. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's answer, LV Hushan sneered. Yuan Weiqing, don't talk nonsense. How can there be a seemingly simple but complicated task in the world? I think you're just quibbling. Shui Zhijing is so good to you. Are you still not satisfied? Yuan Weiqing suddenly sighed. LV Hushan, since you don't believe me, then I will tell you. You will understand my difficulties. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words, he continued. For example, I received a mission in the past. It looked simple, but it was actually very complicated. The task was like this. Go to Black Mountain City in the East County and find Zhang San. Then, no matter how much Zhang San wants, you have to buy his family's heirloom jade. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a wry smile, LV Hushan, this task looks very simple, right? It feels like as long as you go to the East County, find Zhang San, and listen to his price, buy his jade, and then bring it back easily. In your opinion, this task is like a tour. You spend all your time on the road, and you don't care about the length of time. You can see the mountains and rivers along the way. It is simply the best task. Do you all want to go? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, LV Hushan immediately sneered. Yuan Weiqing, you are right. When we saw you accept this task, we were so jealous. We are usually very busy and have no time to play. This time, you actually went to the East County to get gold coins from the gang. Who wouldn't be jealous of such a good thing? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing sighed and said slowly, at first, I thought the same as you. I thought I got a good task. However, this seemingly simple task is actually really difficult to complete. It can even be said that it is quite dangerous. LV Hushan suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, it's over. Don't lie to us. Even if you go on a tour this time, it has nothing to do with us. Speaking of this, LV Hushan paused and then said slowly, speaking of which, we can only blame Xue Zhijing. He is too unfair. He let you do all the good things, and we can only do some laborious and unrewarding things. Yuan Weiqing frowned and said with a wry smile, LV Hushan, in this case, I will tell you how complicated this matter is. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words, he continued. The specific address is Black Mountain City in the East County. Although Zhang San lives in Black Mountain City, he does not live in the city, but in the barren mountains. Near Black Mountain City, there is a snow leopard valley. Zhang San lives in the snow leopard valley. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing turned to look at LV Hushan and asked with a wry smile, LV Hushan, do you know why it is called Snow Leopard Valley? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, LV Hushan shook his head. Suddenly, his heart moved and he asked tentatively, Yuan Weiqing, are there many snow leopards in Snow Leopard Valley? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing sighed and nodded. LV Hushan, you are right. There are indeed many snow leopards in Snow Leopard Valley. It is for this reason that it is called Snow Leopard Valley. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused and then said slowly, LV Hushan, you should know very well how powerful snow leopards are. What's more, do you know how many snow leopards there are in Snow Leopard Valley? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, LV Hushan shook his head but did not answer. Yuan Weiqing sighed again, stretched out a finger, and said loudly, I'm afraid there are more than 100. Chapter 797. After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan was taken aback. What? There are more than 100 snow leopards? Yuan Weiqing nodded with a wry smile. Yes, there are indeed more than 100 snow leopards in the Snow Leopard Valley. Maybe there are more. Yuan Weiqing turned to look at LV Hushan and sighed. LV Hushan, in order to see Zhang San, I can only go to the Snow Leopard Valley. The most important thing is that even if I want to find some reinforcements, I can't find them because I'm in the East County. There are no people there. It's impossible to go back to the South County to find help, so I can only grit my teeth and go. Do you understand? Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his words, he sighed and continued. It took me more than half a year to go to the East County. Maybe you think I was sightseeing and had a great time, but who knows that I was actually recuperating in the East County during that half a year. LV Hushan, there are more than 100 snow leopards. No matter how I hide, it's impossible to hide. Think about it. You have a headache when you meet one snow leopard, but I met more than 100. LV Hushan, I'm sure that if you went that time, you would never come back. I'm not looking down on you, but it's the truth. My martial arts are higher than yours, but I was seriously injured by those snow leopards. I had to recuperate for more than half a year before I barely came back. Yes, when I came back, I was fat. Do you think I'm living a good life? But you're wrong. If a person is sick and lies in bed every day, how can he not be fat? After hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan frowned and suddenly sneered. Yuan Weiqing, what you said is false. Anyway, it's a matter of the East County. No one knows. You can say whatever you want. However, I won't believe what you said. Seeing that LV Hushan didn't believe his words, Yuan Weiqing was furious. LV Hushan, what I said is true. How can it be false? LV Hushan sneered and said, since Zhongxin lives in such a dangerous place, didn't Home Master Shui tell you? When he heard LV Hushan's question, Yuan Weiqing smiled bitterly and shook his head. It's not that Home Master Shui didn't want to talk about it. It's because the two places are too far apart. Zhongxin moved to Snow Leopard Valley later on, so Home Master Shui doesn't know the truth. Hearing this, LV Hushan immediately looked up to the sky and laughed. Yuan Weiqing, I understand. I finally understand. LV Hushan lowered his head and looked at Yuan Weiqing. He sneered and said, Yuan Weiqing, it seems that Home Master Shui is still on your side. He originally wanted to give you a simple mission, but your luck is really bad. Zhongxin moved to the Snow Leopard Valley before you went to look for him. Who can you blame for this? At this point, LV Hushan paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for Yuan Weiqing to answer his question and continued to speak. Yuan Weiqing, you have to repay kindness. Although you have encountered setbacks, it's your bad luck. No matter what, Home Master Shui just wanted to find a simple task for you to do. Isn't this enough to explain the problem? Yuan Weiqing smiled bitterly and shook his head. LV Hushan, Home Master Shui said that he didn't know that Zhongxin moved to Snow Leopard Valley, but who can guarantee that he really didn't know? Yuan Weiqing paused for a moment, but he didn't wait for LV Hushan to answer his question and continued to speak. LV Hushan, think about it. If Home Master Shui knew that Zhongxin had moved to Snow Leopard Valley and still asked me to do this mission, would he still be on my side? LV Hushan smiled coldly and shook his head. Yuan Weiqing, don't quibble. Home Master Shui is on your side because the two of you were originally on the same team. Most importantly, I believe that Home Master Shui will promote you to be the Deputy Home Master soon, right? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing was a little angry and shouted sternly, LV Hushan, according to this, I think the person who has a good relationship with Home Master Shui should be you, right? LV Hushan, think about it carefully. Your missions are always simple. Why is that? Isn't it because Home Master Shui has a good relationship with you? That's why he assigned you simple missions. Hearing this, LV Hushan frowned and said loudly, Yuan Weiqing, you're talking nonsense. Every time I'm assigned a mission, I'm assigned the most complicated and difficult mission. How can it be compared to yours? LV Hushan paused for a moment, then said slowly, Yuan Weiqing, look at the mission assigned to you. Go to Black Mountain City in the East County to find Zhongxin and bring back a piece of jade. It's so simple. Just go there and bring back a piece of jade. There's nothing complicated about it. It's very straightforward. But look at me. Go to Linshui City to find Li Si and buy a treasure map from him for 100 gold coins. Then, follow the instructions on the treasure map and find the item on the treasure map. Speaking of this, LV Hushan turned to look at Yuan Weiqing and sneered. Yuan Weiqing, that's a treasure map. You only give me 100 gold coins to buy a treasure map. Then, after buying it, I have to follow the instructions on the treasure map and bring back the item on the treasure map. This mission, as long as you think about it, I'm afraid it's very complicated. Yuan Weiqing, compared to your mission, which one is more difficult? Hearing LV Hushan's words, Yuan Weiqing sighed. According to the name of the mission, of course your mission is more difficult. LV Hushan snorted. That's it. The mission assigned to you is simple, but the mission assigned to me is complicated. Doesn't this explain the problem? Hearing this, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, do you really think I don't know how you completed the mission? Hearing this question, LV Hushan's face changed. Of course I went through a lot of hardships to complete this mission. You're talking nonsense? Hearing LV Hushan's answer, Yuan Weiqing sneered. LV Hushan, don't lie to me. In fact, I already know how you completed the mission. It's just that I didn't say it. LV Hushan frowned. Yuan Weiqing, what do you know? Yuan Weiqing sneered. Of course I know how you completed the mission. Speaking of this, Yuan Weiqing's tone paused for a moment. But then, without waiting for LV Hushan to answer his question, he continued to speak. LV Hushan, this mission sounds complicated, but in fact, it's not complicated at all. The treasure map in Li Si's hands is actually not something valuable. I know that Home Master Shui gave you 100 gold coins. In the end, you didn't spend a single gold coin, right? LV Hushan's face suddenly turned ugly. Yuan Weiqing, you're talking nonsense. If I didn't spend the gold coins, would Li Si give a treasure map to me? Yuan Weiqing nodded. Of course not. The treasure map belongs to Li Si. Why would he give it to you? Hearing this, LV Hushan heaved a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Yuan Weiqing speak again. LV Hushan, although Li Si wouldn't give the treasure map to you, you wouldn't buy it because there's no need to buy it. The things on the treasure map aren't anything rare. They're just some mineral deposits. I remember very clearly that the mineral on the treasure map is the fire spirit rock. And these fire spirit rocks are also in Li Si's house. So you only spent 10 gold coins to buy a piece of fire spirit rock. LV Hushan, am I right? Hearing this, LV Hushan's face became very ugly. Yuan Weiqing, you're talking nonsense. Is this true? Yuan Weiqing sighed. Not only do I know that you only spent 10 gold coins to buy the fire spirit rock, but I also know that you didn't return the remaining 90 gold coins to the gang. Instead, you kept them for your own use, right? Hearing this, LV Hushan's forehead finally broke out in cold sweat. Trembling, he asked, Yuan Weiqing, how did you know? Looking at LV Hushan's sweaty appearance, Yuan Weiqing sighed. LV Hushan, you think this is a secret. But in fact, in the gang, many people know about it. Not only do I know, even Home Master Shui probably knows about this matter. LV Hushan, it's because of this reason that I suspect that your relationship with Home Master Shui is the best. I think if it was someone else who dared to take the remaining gold coins for himself, Home Master Shui would definitely not let him off. Only you, Home Master Shui, only smiled and didn't say anything. LV Hushan, tell me, if it wasn't for your good relationship, how could Home Master Shui just smile? Hearing this, LV Hushan's heart suddenly moved. He also remembered that although the matter of the remaining 90 gold coins was done covertly, as long as someone went to Li Si's house to inquire about it, they would naturally know what happened. Thinking of this, he suddenly understood that Home Master Shui probably really knew about this matter. But the question was, why didn't Home Master Shui say anything? Home Master Shui was an upright person. If someone dared to make a mistake, no matter who it was, even if it was Vice Home Master Zhang, he would definitely reprimand him. But why didn't Home Master Shui say anything about him secretly hiding the 90 gold coins? Even his attitude towards him didn't change. LV Hushan was really somewhat puzzled. Could it be that it was really like what Yuan Weiqing said, that Home Master Shui actually had the best relationship with him? Looking at LV Hushan, who lowered his head and didn't say anything, Yuan Weiqing sighed and said slowly, LV Hushan, do you still remember that there was a disciple in our gang who asked him to do something? We originally gave him 20 gold coins, but in the end he spent 18 gold coins and was left with 2 gold coins. But because he didn't return the 2 gold coins, what happened in the end? LV Hushan, you should know very well, right? Hearing Yuan Weiqing mention this matter, LV Hushan naturally knew very well. This was because there weren't many things going on in the secret thunder sect of the South County. Once something happened, everyone would definitely know. Yuan Weiqing nodded and continued. LV Hushan, the disciple who secretly left the 2 gold coins was kicked out of the secret thunder sect of the South County because of these 2 gold coins. Think about it. How big is the gap between the two of you? He only left 2 gold coins and was kicked out of the secret thunder sect of the South County. As for you, 90 gold coins. You left 90 gold coins, but Home Master Shui didn't have any intention of blaming you. Tell me, how can we not be suspicious? At this point, Yuan Weiqing turned to look at LV Hushan and said with a sneer, LV Hushan, to be honest, sometimes I even thought that you were Home Master Shue's son. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so good to you. Hearing Yuan Weiqing's words, LV Hushan frowned and subconsciously glanced at the unconscious Hall Master Shui. He was a little puzzled. He and Hall Master Shui were unrelated. Why would Hall Master Shui treat him like this? What Yuan Weiqing said just now was true. The disciple who secretly left the 2 gold coins was indeed kicked out of the secret thunder sect of the South County. The problem was, why was he fine after leaving 90 gold coins? Could it be that in Hall Master Shue's heart, he was really the next Vice Hall Master? Thinking of this, LV Hushan's heart suddenly moved. He felt a little emotional. If today's matter didn't happen, wouldn't his future be bright? Looking at the smile on LV Hushan's face, Yuan Weiqing suddenly sneered. LV Hushan, I think you'd better admit it. You have the best relationship with Hall Master Shui. The reason why you can become the protector of the secret thunder sect of the South County is all because of Hall Master Shue's help, right? Hearing Yuan Weiqing's question, LV Hushan came to his senses. He hurriedly waved his hand and said loudly, No, Yuan Weiqing, you're wrong. Hall Master Shui didn't help me. All of this is due to my own efforts. Hearing LV Hushan's reply, Yuan Weiqing frowned. LV Hushan, one should know how to repay kindness. Hall Master Shui has helped you so many times and even wants to promote you to be the Deputy Hall Master. Is this how you repay him? If you're such a person, I really feel sorry for Hall Master Shui. When Zhang Chunren heard Yuan Weiqing's words, a cold light flashed in his eyes. LV Hushan, is what Yuan Weiqing said true? LV Hushan looked at Zhang Chunren's cold gaze and was shocked. He hurriedly waved his hand. Vice Hall Master Zhang, how could this be true? It's all Yuan Weiqing's nonsense. How could Hall Master Shui help me? We didn't know each other before. We only got to know each other when we went to the secret thunder sect of the South County. Yuan Weiqing shook his head. LV Hushan, to be honest, I don't believe that you didn't know each other before. Otherwise, why would Hall Master Shui help you instead of anyone else? LV Hushan hurriedly explained. Yuan Weiqing, don't talk nonsense. Hall Master Shui should be helping you. Speaking up to this point, LV Hushan paused and sorted out his thoughts. Then he slowly said, Yuan Weiqing, every time you were assigned a mission, although the mission you encountered was somewhat complicated, others didn't know about it. Let me say, Hall Master Shui thought that the mission he gave you was simple. He didn't expect things to become so complicated. Therefore, I think that you and Hall Master Shui are the best. In the future, the person who will be promoted to Vice Hall Master will definitely be you. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.